Welcome to DAX Machina. Join us as we explore the mysteries of this world. Cryptids, monsters, macabre tales, and horror stories abound. Could they be true? Are monsters real?
Good evening, folks, and thank you for joining us on another edition of DAX Machina. In the studio with me tonight is Robbie Rip Rains, host of What's Really Out There, Steve Wildman Monrotis, owner of Steve's Pub and Grub, and a man that needs no introduction, Mr. Camron Buckner himself from Dixie Cryptid. Cameron, how the heck are you?
Doing great. How are you guys? Great to see you.
Good. Glad to have you back, man.
Good.
Thank you. Thank you. Trying to find your channel here so I can share this in a community post.
That would be awesome. Heck yeah. Much appreciated. So, folks, if you guys are not familiar with the Dixie Cryptid channel, you need to make sure you get over there like right now and subscribe, because Cam has got some amazing content, not just the Steve Lilly stuff, but his Bigfoot stories, encounter stories. Now Steve Lilly has his own channel. It's just an awesome place. We've done a lot of projects together, and we have quite a few more planned in the future. Cam has lent his voice to some of my audiobooks, and I personally think it's a perfect match. We're both just a couple of good old boys, and he talks the way I write, so I think it's a perfect fit. I just posted in the chat. If you guys have not had a chance, make sure you swing by and give his channel a like and subscribe. Man, they are comments are moving fast.
Yeah.
That's Ryan Paul Tremblay from Monster Radio. Hey Ryan, how you doing? David Bice says, gentlemen, where? So boys, how you guys been doing?
Not too bad. I'm on vacation and loving every minute of it. Hopefully my liver will survive.
Robbie, you're still in the middle of a work week, ain't you?
Yep. Got one more day.
And then you got a couple
Friday
off.
and Saturday down, Sunday, and I get some time off.
When are you heading down to Ocala?
The 18th.
18th.
Me and
So
the
that's
meatball
coming up
going.
pretty quick.
Yeah, thankfully. Me and the meatball will be doing some stuff in the Ocala National Forest. We're gonna camp out a couple of days, then we're gonna hang out at the conference that Saturday. Hopefully he won't get in any kind of trouble that I'll have to try to get him out of.
Just make sure you call Big Spoon, because I don't trust him.
Take you a box of crayons, and if he starts getting out of hand, throw a handful of green ones at him.
Yep. This is his just in case. I got one of these little mini handcuff keys, and I'm gonna slip in his pocket, and then he starts running his mouth. I'm like, all right, it's in your back pocket. Shut up.
Anthony should be joining us here in a little bit. He was running a little late getting home. Doc won't be here tonight. He had to go to Denver to pick his wife up from the airport, so Doc won't be able to make it tonight. But Cam, tell us about some of these projects you've got working on. I know you're about as busy as a one-legged man in an ass-kicking contest, but I know you've always got audio projects in the work, and you just recently dropped back-to-back episodes of Steve Lilly. But the most recent one was just like what you had been talking about, redoing the original first one, which I just finished listening to last night. I really liked the additions.
Yeah. I originally had 10 up on Dixie Cryptid, and that was all I was ever going to write. I was going to move on to something else, but people seemed to enjoy it, so I wrote a few more, and then I started the dedicated Steve Lilly channel. I took them all down from Dixie. I redid them all, and I've just been kind of sprinkling them in when I had time. But you know, as well as I know, I'm sure there's things you write, like when you go to review a chapter you've read, you ever get to one and go, oh, that's horrible. That's just, it's too lengthy, it's too much detail, or has nothing to do with the story, and you'll redo it. Well, I did that with about 4 of them. Shortened them up a little bit. I re-recorded a couple, rewrote a couple, and I'm putting them up. And in the midst of all that, I think I've put in 3 extras, 3 new ones. I don't remember which ones are the new ones, but we have another one dropping tomorrow, and it is the last rewrite or re-edit and then everything after that'll be number 14, and everything after that will be brand new stuff. And I've got a couple of them written. I just have to record them, and I'm going to spend the next 30 days or so really doing a lot of work on Steve Lilly because I enjoy it. And in the comment section, well, I've heard this before. It's like on this YouTube thing, it's like no matter how many times you announce it or tell people. When I first announced I was going to do the Steve Lilly story, I said several times, I'm going to take the old ones and put them on this channel. So you're going to hear a lot of the same stuff. If you've heard it, click away. You don't have to listen to it. But it inevitably on every one I redo and re-edit and reissue, I get 100 comments. Well, I've heard this one before. I thought this was new. No, that's not what I said. I told you exactly what I was going to do.
Can't make them all happy, Cam.
After 14, I'm going to be, they'll all be new. No one will have ever heard them. And these are actually better. There's a lot of people going, well, I wish you'd have left the original ones up because they're better than these. These are better. They're just better. The sound is better. The cadence is better. The pauses between sentences are better. All the fluff is out of them. And I think they're pretty good. So anybody who just stumbles on that channel and enjoys it will like all 14 that I have up. And then there's tons of people who really enjoy the what I've done. So it's that's what I'm doing. And I've got a couple of other things I'm doing with Steve Lilly. I don't want to really announce it right now, but I got some help from someone and they kind of showed me how to do a couple of things, and I'm going to do some different things with him. The stories will be basically the same, but it should be fun. I got to keep it fresh and different for me. If I'm just doing the same thing over and over, it's kind of like with your books, DA. I know you went from zombies to sci-fi to monster hunters to wild hunt to law enforcement to military, and you just have to shake it up.
Right, absolutely.
To keep it interesting for yourself. And or people will get burnt out on it. The writer will get burnt out on it, and it'll show in your writing, I feel like. So
my first series of books was a zombie series, and I started to kind of get a reputation as a zombie author. And I told my wife, I told her, I said, well, I like that. I like that people are accepting me as a bona fide zombie author, but I don't want to just be a zombie author. I want to be an author. And she goes, well, then you're going to write other stuff. And that's when I started, branching out into sci-fi and branching out into doing more modern stuff that had nothing to do with zombies. And most recently, I did a Western. Which I really never saw myself doing even a year ago, but I'm really glad I did. It's getting a lot of positive feedback. It's done really well on Amazon.
Mm-hmm. Well, one thing I noticed, DA, the time period when you wrote the Ragnarok Rising books, you were just on the leading edge of that zombie craze, where everybody and their brother's dog was doing a zombie book, and you kind of rode the wave with it. And then now it's gotten almost to the point where it's been beaten to death. It's like every indie author, what's your book about? Oh, it's about zombies. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And there's some great ones out there, but your stuff is unique.
Well, when I did zombies, I wanted to do something that was different. And that's why I did the Norse twist on the zombies, because every version of the zombie apocalypse had already been told. It's radiation from space or a government experiment that escaped the lab. I just wanted to put my own twist on it, and I think I was happy with the way that turned out. And I do have some plans for another possible series to go back and revisit that universe with the zombies. But it's not where I want to live, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm.
I think Leon's got a good idea.
I love that idea.
Because I think Leon and Steve would actually get along really well.
Oh my God! You're only allowed to write it if the Leon character is portrayed accurately. because he is one of the funniest people I've ever interacted with. I would sit down with a bunch of beers just to listen to him.
Is Leon, whose comment was just up there?
Yeah, he's got the channel Do It Noel's Way.
Oh, okay.
Leon's a hoot. He's been on the show a few times. He's a hoot and a half.
I would love to bring in an Englishman or a Brit.
Cam, he's the crazy English guy that goes hunting dog man with nothing but a machete.
Oh, he's from England, UK.
Yeah, from near Manchester.
Leon.
Yeah.
All right. If he'll do the voice of the English guy, I'll do it. That's what I was going to say. I can't do a.
Oh, that's amazing.
I can't. And what's funny is, the Southern accent is actually a kind of a changed English accent, and some people say Southern people have an easier time imitating an accent from England than anybody else, but I can't do it. If I do it, I sound like an idiot.
So, speaking of the most recent Steve Lilly stuff, I don't remember which number it was. I'm terrible with the titles because it's like Steve Lilly 11, Steve Lilly 10. It's one of the most recent ones with the little girl that got abducted.
Yeah.
Okay. In that, where you had Agent Red getting on the radio with them and Agent Blue, to me that was like I was excited for that because that was shades of Wild Hunt. There were elements there that I really liked about that because we've already done one crossover together and I've got a couple others in the works, but to me that just really clicked because it made it seem like it was. And I know this probably wasn't your intent, but it made it really feel like part of my universe, and I really liked that. It resonated for me.
Well, I'm actually, and I've got your blessing on that. We've talked about it, but in season 2, every 10 episodes is going to be a season, and Clark and there's going to be a small team from the Wild Hunt Steve's going to call them. He's going to be in a jam and he's going to call them. And I kind of discussed, how that was going to go with you. And that's probably going to be 15, 16 or 17. I'm not sure, but it's I actually can't wait to do it.
I'm looking forward to that one. I've been excited since you told me about it.
Yeah. Yeah. Yep.
I want to watch it just to listen to Cam do Margolin. Margolin's smartassery in Cam's voice would be absolutely amazing.
Here's the thing. I called. I'm sorry, Robbie. Go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say. I told DA one time we got to talk about Margolin off there, just me and him, and I said something. He said he talked about him being from California. I'm like, I just didn't picture him being from California. I just pictured him as some red. And I was like,
that's right.
It just hit me just now. Why I picture Margolin? It's because of you. Your voice.
I've ruined it. I called him after I did Odin's Call, and I said, am I doing Margolin okay? He goes, dude, Margolin's from Southern California. And I was like, shit. And I'd already released the book and everything.
But see, what did I say?
I love it.
What did I say? He just, the way he is, Cam, you an old redneck like I am from the South. The way Margolin is, that fits him. I didn't know he was. I didn't know he was from Southern California until Demons. Because when I read that, that's when I told D, I said, he's from California? He's like,
I've got like a mini bio on Margolin I've had since I created the character.
He's like, yeah, why? And I'm like, because he's just one of them, yo, watch this shit, hold my beer.
That's right. That's right. He's a great character. That was genius including him in the, and you kind of, and he has what was cool in I think it was Wendigo, where he kind of fell in love with is it Gragel's cousin that he kind of falls in love with?
Oh no, they met her during that book. Her name's Winter.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, yeah.
Yeah, she's an Ojibwe shaman.
The point is that he's not just totally rough around the edges. He's got some depth to his character, and when you put a romantic element in there, he totally changed personalities. You know, he quit mouthing off there for a while, and he's like, Captain Clark, I'm going to stay back with her if that's all right with you. Okay, you stay back with her. It's like Clark could see it too, and he was like, you stay with her. And
that was the point when Clark started giving him more responsibility. That's what that moment was what led up to him getting a final code name.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of that book. It's it's not a huge action part, but it's just the character, the way that you develop the characters is, and it's not overdone. You know, it's not like over the top. It's just subtle little inconsistencies in what you expect their behavior to be. And it just makes it human. It makes the whole story human and relatable. So
well, I like how the dialogue flows. You know, you mentioned Curse of the Wendigo. The scene in the beginning of Curse of the Wendigo when the team accidentally ends up in Canada, and the radio chatter when Asgard Actual and everybody are interacting, and the tension building as they're realizing that something, some international issue is getting ready to happen here, and then they realize it has, like, oh well, shit,
Yeah.
It's just it builds suspense and it builds comedy all at once. And I mean, I was laughing out loud reading it, but the hairs on my arms were still standing on end because I realized this stuff was getting real.
Yeah, because funny things happen in combat situations, and the things guys say, it's not funny to them at the time. But if you hear guys talking back and forth while, the bullets are flying, some of it's actually kind of entertaining, really. And that's a good way to kind of lighten the mood a little bit, and when it needs to be, and it's really good. I just appreciate the way he writes these, and I can't wait to next week get into Blood Eagle and finish it up and get it out, and then move to Dyatlov Pass. I did that was it Wolf Moon that I did? I think so.
Yeah, I thought you did really well on it too, man.
Well, I did it thinking, well, it will be fun just to kind of change things up a little bit. But I think people want Wild Hunt books. I think my audience wants Wild Hunt books. And so I'm going to stick with those until you tell me to stop, DA. So,
but you've got two. Well, you've already got part of the way through Blood Eagle, so you've just got one more to catch me.
Well, for Dark Frontiers, that's kind of sort of a Wild Hunt book. So.
Yeah, I want to turn you loose on Dark Frontiers. I really do.
Yeah.
Now, that one will definitely be only Cam could narrate that one. But we did have an idea, Cam, and now that you're here, because we did say we needed to talk with him about that, DA, and we've already talked to the audience about it. We did have one kind of cool idea, though, that you do the narration, but each of us do the voices of our characters.
That would be fun. I mean, that would really be fun. Yeah.
I'm already hearing Doc reading Doc's lines in that book anyway.
The thing is, I've tried when I have a certain amount of time, like I just kind of block out a week to do one of those books, and I'll come in at 7 a.m. and start recording, and I won't quit until 6 or 7 that evening. I'll stop after a couple of chapters, and just to keep the flow going, I'll edit, maybe one chapter, and then I'll record like 3 or 4. It just depends on how my voice is holding up. And I usually wind up with about 6 or 8 chapters at the end left to edit to finish everything up. But that's the problem with that is I would have to wait on you guys to get me all your files and have to know where to drop them in and stuff like that. So
I wish I could kind of a logistical problem.
The
only way it would work is if we were all in the same studio.
Yes, that would work good. But I wish I could do more voices than I do. And I've been telling people recently, I'm not really a good narrator, but I just love doing it, and I'm so glad that you're.
Job.
Well, you've heard some good ones, and there's some good ones out there. And
I have listened to a lot of narrators, but there's some that even I would even consider them really good narrators, but even they just don't have the inflection. They don't have, a lot of them are reading the book like they're reading a carton of milk. I mean, there's no emotion to the delivery, and that's one of the things I like most about yours is not just the inflection, but their points are here. You're getting tickled with yourself while you're reading it, and you can hear that in the audio. And to me, it just seems more alive.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. And I talked last night on my live feed about knowing my place. I know my place, and I don't think for a minute that I'm, really super good at this. And I know that there's a bunch of people who enjoy to hear me read stuff, and I'll never figure that out, but I'm glad they do. I'm so glad they do, and it makes it worth doing all that, like spending the time to do the books. I mean, that's a big chunk of time. A week out of a working man's life, you guys know this. That's a solid week, 7 days. I mean, it's a big undertaking, when you're busy. If I was retired, wouldn't be anything at all. That's just what I'd do, But so it's there's my friend Lene Perkins.
Miss Lene's awesome. She's one of our chat moderators and actually one of my alpha readers as well.
She is the sweetest thing.
She's awesome.
We've got
you had a question from Lil Patty. She says, "Are you going to bring up Steve's gift of foresight again?"
Yeah, I talked about that last night. I had actually forgotten I wrote that in a story, and it really wasn't. I needed to. I knew that he kind of had these premonitions, in his personality, and I tried to bring it in kind of subtly so he's not just an unbelievable clairvoyant type person. When you read about somebody like that, if it's just over the top, you're like, oh, bull crap. But but he can't figure it out, see, and he doesn't have any control over it. And so I kind of figured, well, where did he get it? And so Sarah, the woman who was actually their nanny, kind of let him know what was going on. And it probably wasn't really a great story. I thought it was pretty good. I enjoyed writing it, but I think if I had to do it again, I'd do a couple of little different things. But yeah, he's gonna deal with that in upcoming episodes.
I thought that was a good touch to put in there, that he has this kind of sight ability. I thought that was a really good character bit. But you really got a gift for dialogue, dude. You do really good dialogue, and I like the addition of the new character Isabel. I like him. I think he's a good fit for the team, and I think he's going to be you'll be a good cast member for the future group. But he's an interesting. He adds a new dynamic, and I like that. You've got to introduce new characters, and sometimes you've got to let other characters fade away, and that's how you keep your stories vibrant. You keep them fresh. But I really like that, introducing that character. And Agent Red's another good character introduction.
Yeah, she's going to be. Her and Steve are going to have fun. But Isabel, a lot of people said, "Well, why'd you give him a woman's name?" Well, that's his name. I named him after a really good friend of mine, a guy I used to work with, and he's one of the few Mexicans who's ever told me a Bigfoot story, and I can tell you the whole story now. All the guys were in the break room. We all worked in the shop together, and the topic of Bigfoot came up. This was like 30 years ago, and all Isabel said was, "Oh, man, I saw a Bigfoot last week." Everybody's going, "Oh, bullshit, you did not." "Oh, yeah, I did, man. I was coming to work, and I was going right through Ravendale, and there he was, standing leaning against a pecan tree, man." That was the end of his story. And the guys that I know that I worked with all those years ago, they still laugh about him telling that story, and I can't recreate it adequately to make it as funny as it was. But he was just, matter of fact, "Yeah, man, it was just leaning up against a pecan tree. I saw it." So Bigfoot wasn't attacking anybody. He wasn't moving. He was just leaning against a pecan tree. But he's one of the best ironworker hands I ever worked with. And that's That's his real name. Isabel Garza is his name. And I tried to Facebook him the other day to tell him I was going to write him into a story, but he hasn't responded, so he doesn't know. But if he will respond to me, I think he'll be happy with the way I wrote him in.
I think he will too. I mean, I think he did a really good job. And again, I like that character. Having him around is gonna be a good dynamic. And it's good to see that they started out as, when you first started with like story one, none of them were like doing very well, but now he's got this badass truck, and they're making big paydays, and like, oh yeah, it's not a big deal.
Well, the timeline's jumping around quite a bit. It's like the one that's going to release tomorrow is the one where they deal with the hoaxer in the big thicket. You guys may remember that.
That was a good one. The one where Bigfoot carried that dude's body around for a while.
Yes, I enjoyed that, writing that story a lot. And I cleaned it up a little bit and re-released it. And my favorite character in that whole deal was that woman, Renee, the Karen that was in
that was my favorite episode.
That the Bigfoot was dry humping, because she was like, she wanted to see the Sabe people and all this stuff. And she had the Harry and the Hendersons. Well, I saved that one for last because 15 is, speaking of the timeline changing, 15 is going to be about 3 years after that episode. And they're going to deal with this Tom Chatham guy again. And I kind of modeled him off of somebody I saw on YouTube. I guess if I remembered his name, I wouldn't say it because all the Bigfoot crazies would come down on me, and I don't want that to happen. But this guy talks about the Bigfoots coming. I mean, he actually says this happened, that Bigfoot came out and they brought him in the woods and they invited him to be at the birth of twin Bigfoots and all this stuff. Everybody in that story, there's a real person that I've seen or talked to that backs all that up. So
I think I know who you're talking about. I won't say either, but yeah,
I can't even remember his name. I've tried to look him up because it was like, I remember watching those videos like 4 or 5 years ago, and I was thinking, oh my gosh. And all these people were sitting around him in lawn chairs, and they're like, oh yeah. Oh, so they did this and they did that. And he's like, yeah. And he wrote a book about it and all this stuff. And I don't know, it may be true. It just sounds so outlandish to me. But I
remember listening to that video, and had a bad allergic reaction. I was like, oh bullshit.
Yeah, that's funny. Oh man. So anyway, that deal. We're going to jump around. We're going to jump ahead 3 years from that period. And then, as the time goes on, I may go back to their third hunt or their fourth hunt. And then I may jump into, today's time. And at some point I've got to get to the time in history where the organization stops paying them. And I've kind of got that worked out in my head. But anyway, it's just fun putting it together.
The beauty of stories like this is they really don't ever get old. You've got characters that come and go. You've got different elements that get introduced. But to me, these are stories they don't get old. I mean, for example, the narrations of like the Wild Hunt books that you've done, and even Apex Predator. Hell, I wrote the damn things, and I still like to go back and listen to your narrations of them because it's like a new story. Yeah. I know I wrote it. I know how the story's going to end, but listening to you narrate it, it's like my wife and I had a conversation one time at a convention. She asked me, because somebody came up and was telling me who they thought should play Clark, and I was listening to the story, how they saw it, and I thought it was just absolutely awesome. She goes, does that bother you at all? I'm like, no, not at all. It's like I'm getting to see my story through someone else's eyes. Yeah. And to me, that's just the most awesome part, is because he was like, I think Daniel Clark should be the Rock, and I mentioned 2 or 3 other characters, and I'm like, wow, I never would have thought of that, because Daniel Clark's not a big guy. he's
Right.
built more like a distance runner than a bodybuilder. But hearing somebody else's perspective on these characters really was awesome, because it was like experiencing the story from a different perspective.
You know who I see Clark as playing Clark? Who was the guy that played Johnny Ringo in Tombstone?
Michael Biehn.
Michael Biehn.
He would be perfect in his younger self to be Daniel Clark.
See that, and that's a totally different one than you and I've talked about. You had somebody you thought DA. I had somebody different that
I thought Scott Eastwood.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Yeah. Yeah. Isn't it amazing how much he looks like his father?
Especially in certain angles. I mean, certain angles you'd think it was Clint.
Yeah.
And he's a pretty good actor on his own. I mean, he's not just making a living off his dad's name. He's pretty solid.
Yeah, he does good.
Miss Lanita had a question for you. She says, how can you write and be serious with a chicken on your desk?
Lanita, I actually had one up here right here beside me yesterday. We have 6 new chickens. They're I guess they're about 8 or 9 months old now. They're Jersey Giants. They're real big black chickens. They're beautiful. And they have the weirdest personalities, and they won't let you. None of our chickens will let us pet them or pick them up or hold them. They'll run away, but they'll walk all around you, and they'll get up here on the desk, and they'll just get right here close to my face and look at me and peck at my face. And but if I reach over to touch them, they run away. And but anyway, I had one of those Jersey Giants up here sit beside me yesterday. I just let her sit there, and I just kept working.
As long as they're not doing anything on the desk that doesn't need to be cleaned up.
Man, there's chicken shit all over my floor. They come in and out of here all the time. But chicken shit is not nasty. It's not like a dog turd or a cat turd or something like that. You can pick them up and throw them out. They don't smell or anything like that. Oh, that's a good idea.
Yeah,
see that?
That is a great one.
I think we talked about. Oh no, that was Declan. We talked about him playing.
Yeah, I think we mentioned him playing Declan.
But I can definitely.
Oliphant's a good actor.
Especially the way he played. If he plays it the way he played in The Perfect Getaway with Steven Zahn and what's her name that was in The Fifth Element, Mila Jovovich. If he plays it the way you need to see that one, because he's definitely that you could see Daniel Clark in that.
Watch that one.
He's some kind of special forces guy, but he keeps calling himself an American Jedi. Because he won't out and out say I'm a SEAL or I'm Delta Force. The guy said, well, what did you do? He said, well, my commander said if anybody ever knew what we did, we failed. So he's like, I'm an American Jedi.
See, I always saw the Sergeant Major as Tom Sizemore.
That's a good one. That's one we had never said. I said Sam Elliott.
Sam Elliott would be a good choice for Hammond.
CSM Hammond.
Yeah.
Because I see him in We Were Soldiers. Sergeant Major Plummer. That's Hammond all the way.
Well, I was seeing Tom Sizemore in Saving Private Ryan
as a good one.
Him playing Tom Hanks's sergeant. I'm like, oh, that's a sergeant major. That's him right there.
He did a good job in Black Hawk Down too.
Tom Sizemore's a really good actor.
He just passed away like a month or so ago.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a shame.
Naoma says Tom Hardy. I could see Tom Hardy doing it. Tom Hardy's a hell of an actor.
Oh yeah, he's great.
He could do anybody.
Lady in Kentucky says Matthew McConaughey should play Steve Lilly.
That's what we were talking about last time.
All right. We're going to go get these Sasquatches now, you hear?
Go get me some Squatch heads. All right.
He's got kind of that clever, that clever little Southern kind of thing. And it's, I think his personality or the characters that he's played before would be perfect for that. So
Played him
He's
like he
from
did in
Texas,
Rate of
isn't he?
Fire. Twilight Hour. That's when they can't see. That's when we gonna get them.
did y'all see him in Mud?
Yes.
I think I've seen that one.
Oh man, he was superb in that film. And
Honest, that there's been movies that he's been in that I didn't care for the movies, but Matthew McConaughey himself, I haven't seen a role that he's played that I disliked. But he what was it, Sahara, however you pronounce it,
oh
where he
yeah,
played
yeah.
what anyway, he's a novel character in that movie too. Dirk, I can't remember but he plays a former Navy SEAL in that. So he's got the action hero thing down.
Damn, Brad Fowler had a question for you. He said,
Sure.
"Can you put the Sleeve Lilly playlist in order so it will play correctly?"
Yeah, I can do that. I do playlists for Dixie, for different things, and I just thought I tried to keep the Steve Lilly podcast as simple and as vanilla as I possibly could. I don't do flamboyant thumbnails. I don't do video, on the YouTube version of the podcast. I just show the thumbnail for an hour and a half or 45 minutes. And I always thought, well, they're numbered pretty easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, they're just in consecutive order. Why would I do a playlist? But I can see where if somebody just wants to sit and start listening to them on a trip or whatever, and they want them to just keep playing, that would make sense. So yes, I will do that this week. I'll probably do them as seasons, like season 1, season 2, and do them that way.
Scott says Billy Bob Thornton is Lilly.
Yeah, somebody said that last night, and I think that's a good idea.
I like Billy Bob Thornton. He's a good actor.
But
Going after
Matthew
Sasquatches and
McConaughey,
mustard and biscuits.
Matthew McConaughey in that movie Mud. Jeff Nichols directed that, and all of his movies are set in the Delta. Almost everything he does is set in the Delta. And he did one movie about, I can't remember the titles of any of them, but I know them when I see them. And he makes them very realistic to the culture in the Delta. It's like when you watch it, and if you're from here, it's like he knows what he's talking about. And he was born and raised, I think, in Helena, Arkansas, which is right there on the river. And but Mud was the best one. And is it Sam Shepard? He was in that, and he was exceptional in that. And
Sam Shepard's always good.
I love that movie. Stephen Lang, who was that? I'm trying to think of what he's been in.
He's been in everything. He was in the Avatar movies. He was the general in the Avatar movies.
Oh yeah. He is great. He's awesome.
Yeah.
He was in Tombstone. He was Ike.
Yep. Yeah, he was Ike
Clanton.
Commits to fighting or get out.
Right.
Your English character, D. I can't remember his name now. The Templar.
Oh, Davidson.
Davidson. I see a young Jason Isaacs as that guy.
I can see that. Jack Mack, aka Heavy Guy Haiku, says Ron Perlman is Hook Johnson. You know who I envision when I think of Hook? The guy that played Opie on Sons of Anarchy.
That's exactly.
Walking Dead.
That's him. That's Hook Johnson.
That's exactly who I pictured the first time I heard the description. I was like, that the guy that plays Opie's perfect for this.
Yeah, he's a great actor.
He's really good. You know, his dad is the guy that played Perkins on Sheriff Lobo.
Oh, really? How about that?
No. I'm sorry. No, it's not. It wasn't Perkins. It was he was the other deputy on Dukes of Hazzard, not Enos, the other one.
Roscoe's cousin.
Yeah, that was his dad.
Ryan
no, not
Hurst
Sonny.
plays Opie Winston.
Naoma says Cillian Murphy would be a good Davidson.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
Cillian
Cillian Murphy's
Murphy.
great in anything.
Yep.
I was just thinking of, like, you get some of these roles that Isaacs has played, like some of his dialogue in The Patriot, where he gets real quiet. He's just got that very slow, kind of subtle delivery. Just some of the little monologues that Davidson's had, I see him like that.
There's more to be revealed about Davidson. It's coming.
Chad C., do you mind if I answer this question, DA?
Sure, go right ahead.
He's asking if I'm going to interview Dave Knuckles anymore. That last interview, he says, was great. And that guy has some stories. I love Dave Knuckles. And he used to write story after story after story for me. And I sent him an email about 6 months ago because I hadn't heard from him in 6 or 8 months. I'm like, hey, where you at? And he said, I'm just busy doing other stuff and all. And I don't know if he's mad at me or what, but I love Dave Knuckles. That guy. And I did an interview with him. He worked in an insane asylum. And he was telling stories about, he told a story about a guy who was like a vampire werewolf hunter. And this guy, of course, they all thought he was crazy. He was in the mental, it was like back in the 70s and 80s when, that's where they went to the mental hospital. And he told David, he goes, well, I'm going to have to leave here before long because I've got to go, there's one in such and such a town. I've got to go kill it. And Knuckles said, oh, okay. Yeah. Came in the next day. The guy had vanished. He was gone. He doesn't know where he went, but nobody gets in and out of there. They're like prisons, they're not.
Yeah.
And the guy had just gone. Nobody knew anything. He was just gone. That's creepy right there. I thought I could do a good fictional short story on that or something. But yeah, but I love Dave Knuckles, and I wish he lives down in Florida. I'd love to hear from him. So Dave, I doubt you're listening, but if you are, shoot me an email, buddy.
Well, you never know.
He wrote the story about, I did a story a long time ago about, the Charlie Daniels song, Woolly Swamp, Legend of Woolly
I remember
Swamp.
that. Mm-hmm.
So he wrote a story that kind of went along with that. And I redid it a little bit. I like to have the liberty to kind of change them up a little bit. And I did that. I don't know if that made him mad or not, but anyway. I'm glad Chad asked that because I miss Dave.
He said Agent Blue would be a perfect gig for that actor, Tom Hiddleston.
What has he played in? I don't know who that is.
Loki and all the guy played Loki. Movies.
All the Marvel movies.
Oh, yeah.
Played Hank Williams Sr.
Okay, yeah. He's a great actor. He was great in Vikings, yeah. Agent Blue is going to show up on a hunt in season 2. I think you're going to find out he's not just a caller. He's a fighter.
Good. I hope to have my next Steve Lilly crossover story done sometime next week. I was wanting to have it done by now, but I've had so many other projects going at the same time. I've kind of had to let a couple of things go to get some things done. But this one's going to be called Apex Predator Lily Moon.
Oh, cool! Yeah, they're going to come up against some dogmen, I guess.
Yep.
Oh, that's a great idea.
Steve's going to run into Micah and the twins and a couple others.
Yeah, that's a great idea. I can't wait to get it.
Robert D says, who would Kurt Russell play? Well, we'd have to have him in somewhere because Kurt Russell's too good of an actor to pass up on.
Yeah. I think Kurt Russell might be a good Agent Blue.
I think he would. I can see that.
Yeah.
You know, he kind
Golden
of
Whisper says, "Who would you pick for Agent Red?"
Oh, I hadn't even thought about that. You know, probably someone that isn't just a total knockout. Someone that's just a real pretty, kind of a small, average looking woman. I can never remember people's names, actors, just a very few. April, my wife, is always like, well, let's watch this. So and so's in this, and they're in this, and they're in this. I'm like, I don't know who all those people are. Let's watch them, whatever. And so I can't think of any names, but yeah, that was funny when she said, "How about you quit talking about my boobs? That'll be nice." You see Steve Lilly's face getting red.
Richmond Hartman says Scarlett Johansson is red.
That's a good idea. Yeah, that's a good idea.
Kevin
like
Bode
that.
says she's got to be a ginger.
Because she's Agent Red. Oh, man, that's funny.
Yeah.
Steve Patton said Colonel Boudreaux for Kurt Russell.
I could see that.
I could definitely see that. Yeah, Steve had just called me out on my choice of beverage here a moment ago.
Yingling.
Yeah.
So which projects do you have next in the pipeline, Cam?
Just Steve Lilly. I'm just working on Steve Lilly, and and I've got the novel kind of sketched in, you know, like the beginnings, where he came from. I've got it outlined. It's just time. I just need time, you know. When do you write, DA? Do you write at night?
I write mostly at night, but sometimes I will get up early when everybody's in the house is still asleep and have some quiet time, put on a pot of coffee and just bang away.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, it does help the DA is semi-retired too. You know, he can write more or less full time, and you know, you're kind of.
I've also noticed that since I had that spinal ablation, I haven't taken a pain pill in over a week. Haven't had to.
That's great.
That spinal ablation has knocked the pain to the point where I can sit for hours in a chair and write. You folks that have long familiar with the show have probably seen me fidgeting in the chair like constantly through the show. It's because I was trying to readjust and get comfortable because my back would start hurting and I'd have to shift. But I'm pretty comfortable now. I mean, I still get uncomfortable and have to shift positions once in a while, but you know, for the most part, my pain level is completely at a tolerable level. I mean, if I overdo it, it still hurts pretty bad. But for the most part, I can sit and comfortably write for 5 or 6 hours and not really have any adverse effects.
That's great. Neoma says it's been almost 3 hours since her last pain pill.
That's a total different perspective on pain for sure.
Yeah, well, it changed. That ablation changed my life. It did. And they've had my pain management doctor. You know, she basically set me down and she goes, when I was just a few weeks ago, went for my follow up. I was already having an improvement because of that ablation, and she's like, "Okay, now I want to explain something to you," and I'm like, "Okay, what?" And she goes, "I want you to listen to me." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "Nothing is fixed. Do not hurt yourself worse. You're only going to feel better. Your back is still in bad shape. Don't go back to trying to wrestle people or try to go back to being a cop, because you will put yourself in a wheelchair. You will feel better, but nothing is fixed." I'm like, "Okay." She goes, "In fact, next time you come in, we're going to fit you for a back brace because I want you wearing one because you're going to feel like you can do stuff again."
That's probably good advice.
Yeah, she made sure to set me down and get me to focus 100%. She's like, "Look, don't blow this off. You are not fixed. You're just gonna feel better."
Man, I feel so lucky I don't have people who have chronic pain. Man, my wife has a little bit of it, and I count my lucky stars. I don't have anything going on yet. So what are you working on now, DA?
I've actually got 3 projects running at this. Well, okay, 4. I've got 4 projects running at the same time. I'm like almost 40,000 words into my first fantasy novel. It's still going to tie into the rest of the universe. It's the universe where Gray Eagle and Sarah and Jason got sent. So
Okay.
that's the connection. That's the tie-in. They're actually going to be able to get there. And a lot of people have already surmised that is likely where the Wild Hunt went during Ragnarok. So I won't confirm or deny that, but let's just say that's a possibility. I've got that project. First book of that is going to be called Heart of Iron. And like I said, I'm about 40,000 words into it. I've also got the second book of the Nightmare Hunter series going. It's called Curse of the Rougarou. It's set in Louisiana. I'm about 15, almost 20,000 words into that one. I'm working on the short story that I just mentioned, Apex Predator Lily Moon. And I just went ahead and just to preemptive strike it, I went ahead and started the second book of Dark Frontiers, because Dark Frontiers 1 went to #1 in Amazon Western Horror. And I don't want to let that one rest too long. I want to jump that one out as quick as I can. So I'm hoping to have the second book of that one. Hoping to have the second book of that one done. Let's see, what is this? Middle of June, maybe before.
You keep this up, you're going to be a bestseller there, you handsome bastard.
Well, technically, with that one going to #1, it is. I can
awesome.
officially use the title Amazon best-selling author.
That's amazing. Oh, I'm so proud of you, big guy.
Thanks, brother.
It's a good book. It's a great story.
Yep.
Oh, I was telling DA earlier, I've only had the pleasure of reading about the first 8 chapters, maybe. I just finished the chapter where you meet Josiah Monrotis, and it's got the little quote from Jonathan Mayberry at the top, because I thought that was clever too.
I like to quote authors that I really like.
Well, and with him being a friend of the
tends
show,
to be pertinent to what's happening too.
Sure, with him being a friend of the show, even better.
We
But
need to get John back on.
I was telling my wife, I'm like, this is some of his best stuff yet. And I really, when you said you're writing a Western, just because I was so used to your military horror stuff, the Wild Hunt-ish stuff, I'm like, I don't know if he can pull off a Western. You amaze me every day, brother.
Like I said, I never wanted to be known just as one particular type of author. That's why I've done sci-fi. I'm doing a fantasy novel. I did a Western. I just want to be known as an author, and hopefully I want to be able to do all of them well. There are some authors that only ever do one thing well, and I don't want to be that guy. Kind of like if I was an actor, I wouldn't want to be just a guy who did sci-fi movies. I would want to be just a guy that was known for being in Star Wars. I would want to be, an actor that had a wide range. And as a writer, I want to extend that range the same. I want to have a wide range and be able to write whatever I set my mind to. Except romance novels. I don't see me ever doing a romance novel.
Oh, come on. It'd be fun.
I'd have to write under Annette's name so people would take me credit seriously.
I remember I was talking with a friend of mine at work who hadn't read your stuff. And when I come up about your D.A. Roberts, like they had in their head that D.A. Roberts was a woman because you're using the initials. It was like, oh, she's, it's a woman trying to write man's books, not that women can't write anything, but I was like, no, D.A.'s a dude. It's like J.K. Rowling or something.
Anthony, glad you made it, buddy. How's Uncle John doing?
The meatball has arrived.
What's up? This is meatball.
Done picking the crayons out of your teeth?
Yeah, I got it. Now my phone's blowing up. Hold on, let me shut this off. I had enough of that. Please. Yeah, I got kicked out of the hospital. Not allowed back there.
I told you not to put crayons in places like that, Anthony.
Can I tell you? Oh well. Yes, everybody's like, hey, everybody. Yes, how you doing? Yeah,
Well, we miss you, you bastard.
I know. I had to deal with Uncle John. He was in the hot. Please, doctors won't give you an answer for anything. So, oh well. But anyway, Mr. Cam, how are you? Nice to meet you, sir. Finally,
Doing good. Nice to meet you too.
I love your work.
Well, thank
So,
you.
I'm a big fan, and DA will tell you the Steve Lilly series. Big fan.
Okay.
Thank you.
When we did our Halloween episode, that's what he dressed as. He
Yeah,
dressed as
but
Steve
You
Lilly. for
go
Halloween.
ahead and show him, Anthony. You got to
I'm
show
not-
him your Steve Lilly impersonation.
I'll show him after the show. I'm not going to do it.
Oh, see, I told you he'd wuss out, Da. He wouldn't
Yeah.
do
Little
it.
man's
I knew
got
he
some
wouldn't do it
pride.
on
Leave
the
him
air.
alone.
I'm straight today. Oh, so what are we talking about? The books or what?
We've been talking about Steve Lilly and the direction that Cam's taken that and
Okay,
we just kind of doing a round robin talking about a little bit of everything.
cool. And you guys are going to be doing stuff together, right? Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So that's even better with the whole book series thing. I mean,
Cam, I've had several people ask me when the next Wild Hunt was going to be done, and I don't know what to tell them. I'm like, I know he's got like 12 irons in the fire. Do you know when you're going to have Blood Eagle done?
Hopefully in the next couple of weeks. I'm doing my best, and oh man, I don't know. I get that question 20 times every time I release it. It's like sometimes I wonder if I should just do audiobooks. Just do audiobooks,
Yeah.
Steve Lilly and audiobooks, but I have so many stories to do. Neoma just sent me a set of 10 edited emails so that gives me about 50 or 60 in the chamber, that I need to get done. And
damn.
so it's like, yeah, but I love that story. That story kind of reminds me of, Robbie, you were talking about Dirk Pitt. Who was the author of those books?
Clive Cussler.
Clive Cussler.
Yes.
I
Love
love those
Cussler.
books. The Blood Eagle book is kind of reminded me of a Clive Cussler adventure because they're international. They're in that old plane, and they're flying by, and there's the knots. It's just all this kind of stuff,
Right.
and it kind of took me back to Clive Cussler.
I
and the
love
Dirk
Cussler's
Pitts.
books.
Yeah.
Cussler and Jack Higgins were two of my favorites reads.
Mm-hmm.
See, I am looking forward to you someday trying something set in the Sherlock Holmes world. As of this year, the last of that stuff went into public domain, and see, it'd be even neat just to see a Wild Huntish kind of thing set in a Holmes story. Right from the prospect of Holmes, but have him encounter this weird little group of, basically the Victorian version of the Wild Hunt. They're kind of cool.
Funny you should say that
Oh, here
because
we
I
go.
have always wanted to write a Sherlock Holmes story.
There
I
you
always
go.
have
Oh, that'd be awesome.
since I was a kid.
Well,
I've been
we
a
had talked
huge
about-
fan of Doyle's since I was a little kid. In fact, I've got his complete anthology on the shelf behind my green screen. Just
I've got it all.
absolutely
Yeah.
love Arthur Conan Doyle.
There were years and years ago,
Yeah, he wrote some
anybody
good
who
books.
watched the show knows I'm a big Star Trek fan. I'm a nerd. There was in the second season of Star Trek: The Next Generation, they did a Sherlock Holmes show featuring Moriarty, and there's this big lawsuit over the whole thing because the producers were under the impression that the Holmes library was public domain. Well, everything up to the introduction of Moriarty was public domain, but if you
Right.
wrote Moriarty, you still owed the Doyle estate a pretty penny. Well, as of the beginning of this year, everything went public domain. And so anybody can write Holmes and don't have to write a fat little check to the Doyle estate. So, but I was just thinking
Okay.
about it as I
Nobody's
was
ever
reading
been able,
Dark Frontiers.
nobody's ever
Go
been
ahead,
able to answer this. You may be able to answer this, Steve. Moriarty, that was in the Sherlock Holmes, the villain, is that the same Moriarty that they were that was from the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, same bad guy, or was it
Yes.
a
Yep,
different?
it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Yep. Moriarty
Supposed to be
actually
the same
only
guy.
appears in 3 stories. There were 56 short stories and 4 novels, and Moriarty's only in 3 of them.
Mhm.
But that's who everybody thinks of. That's the quintessential Sherlock Holmes villain.
Right.
And because he was the only person who could match Holmes. Arguably he was smarter than Holmes was. But, Holmes also had Watson helping him along in that regard. But yeah, it used to be that you had to have the Doyle family's permission. And I just thought it'd be really interesting reading Dark Frontiers. I'm like, okay, Wild Hunt in the Civil War. Okay, what about Victorian Wild Hunt? And what a great crossover. If Holmes encountered them, because Holmes couldn't get along with anybody. Just having him get into kind of a spit with the head of this unit, whatever it is, would be interesting. They could track the big black dog or something.
That's an interesting
The Hound of the
idea.
Baskervilles.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah, that's a good idea. Man. That is.
I like that. I might have to see about working that in at some point. A Holmes story with my own twist.
Yeah. Well,
Team
just
I
Wild
like
Hunt.
that idea.
Wild Hunt
The
meets
way-
Sherlock Holmes. I mean, yeah.
well,
What about
watching you write the interplay between Holmes and Watson would be hysterical, because I've always pictured Holmes and Watson interacting like Holmes and Watson do on Sherlock. Where there's just, yes, this is Watson's best friend, but he cannot stand him. I'm like, it makes their partnership so much more fun.
And then have Steve Lilly come in the back door somewhere in the story. Get off a ship somewhere in a port, Hey, I'm here from Ireland or something. You never know, something like that.
I love it.
That would be good.
Dee's had a question for you, Cam. So Steve Lilly's team in the group not going to make it. Cam, if you will, with the other group going international, little tease, please, on the different monsters.
I don't understand the question.
Me
I'm
either.
not sure
I
either.
didn't get that either. I'm sorry. I guess he means the Team Wild Hunt team goes international. So I guess Steve Lilly's not going to be in, I guess, any more stories? Is that what he's asking? Or
Oh no. I think he's wanting to know what the monster will be for Blood Eagle.
oh,
It's an interesting. You're just gonna have to wait for the book to come out.
Yeah.
I don't want to give away too many details because it's nothing you're expecting.
Yeah, and you don't really figure out what the monster is for a while.
Well, yeah, it's definitely a third act reveal. That's what
But
makes it
it's-
so good.
But it's really creepy, and it's full of action. It's really good, and it's full of names I can't pronounce.
Well, if you need a guide, let me know, and I'll be happy to tell you how to pronounce them.
is that the one that me and Robbie are in?
No, you guys show up in Death and Die Out Love.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I keep getting them from, I don't know. It's them crayons, Robbie. I can't. I got to stop.
You got to switch to the low carb
I
crayons.
keep telling you, you don't listen.
Them green ones, man, are good. Those winter green ones, let me tell you.
That preface to Dyatlov Pass is awesome. It is freaking. The first 3 chapters and the introduction or preface are just fantastic.
Yeah,
Well,
the guys
I
will
love
tell you, Cam.
Yeah, Love Past Story anyway.
The guys will tell you. I always give you, and I'm not saying it because you're here, and DA and Robbie will tell you. When you tell his books, because I listen to the Audibles, and I'll explain it again to everybody in chat why I listen to Audibles, is because I have dyslexia. So it's easy for me to retain all the info when you're talking instead of reading it. But I told DA this all the time. I said, when you tell the story, your voice, it draws you into the story. It just makes you like a part of the story. When you hear some of the other people that tell stories, you're like, okay.
Well, that's good to hear, because if I can get people to forget about, if you're messing up a lot, then they're thinking about the narrator.
No.
And if you're not really reading the story properly, or, you know, doing it justice. They just think about the narrator, and that's good to hear because I want you to think about the story.
I do, and that's the whole thing, man. I mean,
Yeah.
I told DA, and even Robbie will tell you too. I get so drawn into it when I listen to it. Nothing else around me. Like the dogs could be flipping out, and I'm just right into the story with it. You know.
I have to go back and listen to Odin's Call
Mm-hmm.
to see if I varied someone's voice so I can do it again in the next one if it's one of the same characters. And I'll just pick a chapter because I'll know they're going
Right.
to show up at some point.
Yeah.
And I'll start listening, and I forget it's me, and I get sucked into the story.
Right.
So I kind of know what you're talking about.
I think you missed your calling on doing stories and stuff, but you found it doing this. So
There's no money in it. No money. You got to
there's
love
got to
it.
be money somewhere, man. Seriously.
The last time I took my wife down to the Choctaw Casino down in Durant, Oklahoma, when we were coming back, I was listening to Wolf Moon, you narrating, and I got so wrapped up in the story, I wasn't paying attention to the speed limit,
That's right.
and I blew into a town at 70 miles an hour
I
and
just
got
did that.
pulled over.
I just did the same thing. Listen to Steve Lilly 12. In the car, in the truck, coming back from the hospital. I had it on what do you call Spotify, and I was just, and I missed my exit. I was like, damn it. Came right
Those
back.
are good. Those are good stories to hear.
Yeah. So that's funny you said that. The guy did the same thing. I missed the exit coming home.
I'm really shocked I didn't get a ticket. I think that the only thing that saved me was him seeing my retired law enforcement ID.
Yeah. That's
Little
all he had.
Patty, she nees to buy that book.
Who?
It's a Western, but it's not a true. It's not a true Western. It is a true Western, but it's not. It's a wild hunt. It's a Civil War era wild hunt book.
Wild Hunt. Yeah, I like that the way it came out. So it was awesome.
It's good.
It is. You guys have a knack, the both of you, together. How you guys, I don't know how you do it with his Wild Hunt team, and then Steve Lilly comes in. It's like I can't tell who writes. You did the one with Wild Hunt team, then Steve Lilly came in, and you couldn't tell if DA wrote it or you wrote it and just handed it to DA and put Steve. It's like you guys are connected. It came right into it with no problem. Same attitude, same wording that he would use or how he would talk to people. You know, that's the whole thing.
I think his dialogue is much better than mine. But mine is short and to the point, and DA can write pages of conversation, and it's really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I haven't developed that skill yet.
Bro, you're good. I tell DA all the time, man. I love listening to his stuff. When you weren't on for like 3 weeks, I was like, what the hell is he doing? Where is he? And you were sick, you know. I'm like, bro, you know, he's not putting anything out. What's going on?
I get sick. I get burnt out. I get
I know
busy
you
at
do.
work. You know, it's just
I
like,
know.
and I'm hoping the whole time everyone doesn't go away. But
No. Like, have you seen your subscribers?
yeah, views are way down, and I think it's because I kind of got off of 100% Bigfoot. But actually, I'm really into this story development now. In the last couple of weeks, and I've kind of decided I'm really going to pay a lot of attention to Steve Lilly and start dropping one story podcasts on Dixie. Just do 10-minute podcasts. And
Good.
I know people love 45-minute or hour-long podcasts, and I'll do those. But I can come in the morning before work and do 3 podcasts. I can record 3. Then after work, I can edit probably 2. In a period of 3 days, I can do 3 podcasts and schedule them out. And I think that's what I'm going to do for the next month or 2, maybe through the summer, and really work on Steve Lilly, because I'm jealous of DA. Man, he's writing these books. He's putting books out 3 or 4 a year. I can't even get 3 or 4 chapters into a real novel, you know, an 80,000 or 100,000 word novel. And But maybe my niche is the short story stuff like I do with Steve Lilly. So I don't know. Maybe I should just be happy
There's
with
something
what
to
I've
be
got.
said for that.
Yeah.
There is something to be said for being a short story writer.
Yeah. The stories are good, man. They're excellent. I can't.
Yeah, you do a great job, dude.
I can't.
Miss Lanita wants to know what color Steve Lily's dog Lily is.
She's a Brindle dog.
Just
She's
like
black.
Cam's. Cam's dog was Brindle, right?
Yeah. She's black and brown and a little bit of white streaks in her, I guess.
Yep.
I don't know. She's like if you ever saw a picture of my dog Roxy,
Yep.
who wasn't a pure pit bull. She was more like a Staffordshire Terrier.
Staffordshire Terrier, yeah.
So she had a different shaped head than the big bull heads, you know.
Yeah.
But kind of that color. I just thought she was so pretty. And my pit bull now, I've got a pit bull now. Her name's Betsy, and she's black, but she has little faint stripes of brown. She's a brindle dog.
I was going to say, Harley's a brindle, isn't he?
That's VA's, and I got my 3 pit bulls here. I got
That's a
3 pit
beautiful
bulls
brindle.
too.
Yeah.
So
Harley the Wonder Mutt.
Robbie's got a pit bull. What is it, boxer, Robbie?
Yeah, boxer
Right?
pit mix.
Yeah. So yeah, we got our share of pit bulls in this family. Trust me, all of us do. So
Yeah.
People are afraid of them, but if I would never be afraid of getting a pit bull.
No. Do you
Harley's
know
the biggest teddy bear I think we've ever had.
I'm going to
The
give you
problem
a
with pit
little.
bulls is they're a great judge of character. The people that don't like pit bulls probably have a reason they ain't liked by the pit bull.
Did you know what they used to call them back in the 30s? What their name was back in the 30s? Pit bulls. They were called Nana dogs. They used to watch children. The family would leave the people home, leave their children home with the dog, and the pit bull would watch the kids. And that's where they got their nickname. They only got a bad rap because you got everybody trying to fight them and this and that. It's stupid. So
Yeah, they're great dogs.
yeah, they are. They're a good family.
I haven't
dog.
found one I don't like yet.
Yeah.
People started fighting them, and then
Right.
they became
Right.
they're cheap alarm dogs or protection dogs. You stick them in your backyard, and at least nobody's going to break in the back door. They're not coming in the yard with a big old pit bull with their ears clipped and all.
Oh, yeah.
And but I tell you, every single one I've had, and we've got 2 in the neighborhood here, and they'll get loose and they'll come back here. We've got one that looks like Petey. He's white. He's got patches on his eyes, and he's a real big muscled up dog. And he likes to chase the chickens. He won't hurt them, but he chases them around, and I have to run him off. But I've never been around one that I felt uncomfortable around. They'll just lay on their back, and they'd love you to scratch their belly. And they're clean dogs. They don't stink too bad. They don't shed. They shed a little, but not too terribly. Not like a lab. And I just love them.
Yeah, my Shusky,
good family
she
dog.
shed something ridiculous.
I could pet my yellow lab, especially when he was, if it had been raining or misty and your hands wet, and you couldn't even see my skin. There'd be so much hair on my hand. He died. He will be dead 2 years this June, and I'm still finding hair in this office from him.
We had a English Mastiff that was like that. I used to joke and say he shed a Chihuahua a week.
That's about right.
Yep. Well, that's like the difference between giving Cap and Bucky a bath. Cap's my German Shepherd, and Bucky's my boxer pit mix. I give Bucky a bath and never have no problem. I give Cap a bath, and it's like DA said, I pull a Chihuahua out of the bathtub.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah.
That's
throw it away.
Dogs here. I give all 3 of them a bath, it takes me 3 pit bulls, 30 minutes. In and out, done. Boop. Their hair is they dry. My black one dries in seconds when he's out in the sun. Boom, dry.
Yeah.
My blue nose that my uncle has, he's got a blue nose. He's blue and white. He dries. My white pit bull with the blacks, she takes forever out in the sun.
I love them.
Yeah, they're good
I
dogs.
just love them.
Expensive dogs, but good dogs. Yes. I mean,
But You can find them in the shelters, and there's so many of them, and people
Yeah.
just give them up. Now
That's
they won't look like your typical pit bull because they won't have the clipped ears and all,
right.
but they're still pretty dogs,
No.
and they're just if
None
you
of
just
mine.
love on them, just love on them, and
Yep. None of my
let them in
dogs-
your house. Let them we let them on the furniture and
Yeah,
everything.
we do
That's
too. My
it's,
two sleep with me. They sleep with me in the bed.
yeah.
Oh yeah. They're cuddle bugs, man. My male, you think that I gave birth to this dog. I mean, seriously, he will not leave my side.
My
But
wife won't have a dog in the bed, but
Yeah, well,
that's okay. Betsy knows where to go to bed, so
I don't have that problem anymore. I'm done. Yeah, he's good. They're all good dogs, man. They are. You'll see Robbie's dog jump on his lap once in a while on the show. He'll just pop out of nowhere. Boop. Just jump on him.
Yeah. 65 pounds.
Cam,
Thanks to the lap.
what do we got what do we got coming in the future for the Steve Lilly universe? What kind of things we got to look forward to?
Well, I mean, right now for the foreseeable future, I'm going to get through season 2, and of course I'll have 6 left to do. And then I'll probably take a month or two break on Steve Lilly, but 15, they're going to deal with the hoaxer again. 16 or 17, you're going to actually really get to know Agent Blue. He's going to get involved in an actual hunt. And then there's the Wild Hunt team is going to be called in desperation to come get. I don't want to give away the story, but it's one of the group gets in a jam. He goes out to hunt a single Bigfoot, and it's the Bigfoot's not too much for this one member of the team, but it gets him in a jam, and he just can't get out. There's just no way out. So anyway, they're going to bring while everybody else is out of town, so they're going to have to call somebody that can get there quick and like fly in.
Right.
And then just some other odds and ends, just stories, to kind of fill out season 2. And then I'm working on the novel. I'm not sure once I get that done, if I could get about a month to just write, I could finish it, I think, which doesn't seem like enough time, but I think I could. I can hit 5,000 words a day. I know I can. When like we were talking before you went live, I struggle with these stories, and I struggle where they're going and what's going to happen. But the minute I sit in front of this keyboard, it just all comes to me. It's the minute I start typing, I'm like, okay. And before you know it, you got 2,500 words, and the story is headed in a direction that you kind of want it to go. And so I'd like to get that done, and I'm not sure what to do with the audio on it, whether to put it up on Audible or put it on the podcast or both, or probably both, but no huge plans. Someone's wanting me to write a screenplay for it and submit it to through some agents to see if there's any production companies that would be interested in that storyline. So I may work on that a little bit. And
I've been telling DA that too with the Wild Hunt team.
I don't know how to write a screenplay. I have never learned.
So
I've been digging into it. It's it actually looks pretty easy, DA.
Really?
It looks a lot easier than
We might have to chat when we're off the air.
Yeah, looks a lot easier than an 80 or 100,000 word book.
I think if you guys incorporated it together with Steve Lilly and Wild Hunt and submitted it to Amazon, Netflix, I think it would take off. Me personally, I think that would be a good a movie or a miniseries that would take off, that people would watch.
Just to submit it to Netflix, they'll screw it up.
Well, you know what I mean. Something like
Well, they did good on some things though, like Jack Reacher.
yeah, they did the Jack Reacher one was good.
And the Terminal List, that was really good.
The Gray Man was pretty cool, but
Gray Man is good.
Really good.
And there's that new one my wife and I just watched. Shooter. We watched Shooter. That was pretty good.
Yeah.
And then they had another one. The Night Desk. Yeah, the Night Desk.
He's in a.
That was
he's supposed to.
Yeah, that one's pretty good. So they're capable of doing good ones, just as long as they just tell a story and stick to the action story.
But they're also
don't try to.
They're also
get it
capable
overly
of screwing
convoluted.
good ones up.
Yeah.
This is true. Growing Old with Purpose wants to know: do any of the main characters die, and will there be new ones?
What series?
I think that was right about the time we were talking about the future of Steve Lilly. So I'm going to guess with the Steve Lilly, because with mine, you guys got to know, I'm Dr. Death. I'm constantly killing characters.
Yeah, there is no such thing as plot armor in a D.A. Roberts story.
Yeah, I kind of want to kill some characters off at some point. I was telling April that today, and she goes, "No, you can't kill anybody off." And I'm like, April, come on, it's a story. They're not really dying, you know. But I don't know. I'm not to that point yet. And you never know. I could sit down next week to start writing a story, and I'll think, I'm going to kill Lewis off. I'm just going to kill him off, you know. But it's not in the plans. It's not in the future, for the foreseeable future. Probably not in season 2.
Yeah. So we're not looking at Hook passing away, or, you know, the big man himself that lives down the road from Lilly passing away soon.
Hook and Steve Lilly are friends from childhood, so I'm going to keep them together, and we'll just see. Lewis is Steve didn't meet Lewis until he moved into the trailer park, which is right after, right before he gets into this Bigfoot hunting gig, and so Lewis might be the most likely guy to die first, but he's a pretty good guy. I just love him, so I don't know. I don't know if I can kill him off.
I got a question for you. Is Steve Lilly, and I might have this wrong, Agent Blue, she's a female now? Or no?
Agent Red.
Agent Red is female.
Are they going to hook up?
Probably not.
Okay.
Man, you guys are... I feel like I have to answer these questions honestly, and I'm spoiling everything.
No, I'm just... because of the comment that you made in one of the episodes that he made, that his mic was open and she heard everything that he was saying about her chest area. So that's why I was asking that.
But what he's saying is, and if you guys know what he's saying, he's like, hell, if I had that girl for one night, but anyway, and see, they issued them this comms gear, and they just
didn't
put
dawn on them that they'd be able to listen to it.
Yeah, they had no idea it was all connected, you know.
It's open mic. They're listening to everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that you get that many alpha males together in one place, there's going to be some kind of grab-assing conversation that occurs, you know.
Of course.
Yeah, we used to get in trouble all the time for saying inappropriate crap on the radio.
You should see me, Robbie, and DA, and all of us in the co-host chat.
Oh, my Lord. When we go off the air, y'all embarrass me with some of the stuff that you say.
Conversation's not fit for the public airwaves.
No, you can't put it on.
Go.
No, we go. Yeah, some of the stuff.
Joe Derringer says, I would love to hear Steve Lilly sing another song. Is that a possibility?
Yeah, I think he's going to sing again. Steve's going to sing again.
I think did you address that other one, DA, about his son wanting a wild hunt patch?
Yeah, I told him to reach out to me to see what we can do. Cool. I mean, we don't have anything set up to sell them online at the moment, but we might be able to work something out. I was going to comment on something. Completely slipped my mind what it was. The comms thing when she broke the comm and said that they and spoke to him, they're like, oh my God, what's she doing listening to us? It reminded me of the scene in Curse of the Wendigo, when General Dalton broke the line, they're like, what the hell is he doing on here?
Yeah.
Like, he's the freaking general. He can listen if he wants to.
When I wrote that in there, it just hit me that, and all it was in my mind, I could see the look on Steve's face when he heard them break in. He probably just went,
yeah, like, uh-oh. Yeah.
Some of the best scenes in military fiction are those awkward comms moments.
Yeah.
Like I said, with Curse of the Wendigo, my favorite scene is listening to Dalton and Hammond throw a fit when Clark causes an international incident.
Yeah, they tell you the comms are encrypted and it's all secured. No.
Yeah.
I hate to tell you guys. Well, DA will tell you no, they're not. So
we had a guy one night. We had a guy one night was describing how he wanted to meet up with one of the dispatchers and sweep her off her feet, and just going on, and we're all listening to him talking to another officer, and I get on his phone. I'm like, "You're sitting on your mic," and then I hear, "Oh shit!" and then the line went dead.
Yeah, that's
I don't plan to kill anybody off anytime soon.
Good.
I can't promise the same.
Now, where did you get the help? Did the DA give you the help with the weapons that they use in the book, or no?
No, I don't. Are you asking me?
Yeah, Cam. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't pay much attention to that. They've got AR-10s. They're shooting 308s and
right. I didn't know
20-round mags.
I didn't know if your son helped you with it because he was prior, military. He was also a Marine. Simplify, but I didn't know if he helped you with some of the weapons choices and stuff.
He did. I had to call him and ask him about the M249.
Right.
Is that the saw?
Yeah, it's a saw. Mm-hmm. Yeah. That shoots 5.56 also, yeah.
I knew the saw. I knew about the saw, and I knew it had different. There's different ways to load it. You can load it with a belt. You can load it with a box of bullets under it.
You could even take a 30-round mag on the side. I know.
So he explained that to me, and then he explained to me the. I've got it all written down. The grenade launchers and the rifles. I can't even remember the number of the rifle he was using when he got out, but he was deadly. He always won one of his best stories in the Marine Corps is when they were in, I don't know what they called it when you were in, but when my dad was in, they called it ITR, Infantry Training Regiment. But it was infantry school. He was in infantry school.
AIT, it's totally different now. It's infantry school.
But he said, hell, that was harder than boot camp. He said it wore his ass out. But they would get in competitions. They would shoot against the officers. The officers would come in with rifles. And he said, I would kick their ass every time. He said it was like, those days when it doesn't matter what you're doing. You could be hitting baseballs. You could be throwing a football. I don't golf, but I guess it's the same with golf. But you just get in that zone and you cannot.
Right.
It's like you're just nail it every time. He said,
right.
I could be shooting against a bunch of other enlisted guys and I might get beat. But every time the officers wanted in, he goes, I would kick their ass every single time. I could not miss. And I love hearing him tell that story. So anyway, he was telling me about the grenade launchers and the rifles, and he was a gunner on a 25 millimeter. I think that's a Bushnell. And he was in a light armored reconnaissance battalion in 29 Palms.
Okay. So he handled the Bushmaster belt gun on the.
It's a cannon sticking out the front of those six-wheeled. I can't remember all the names.
Jesus, Mary. I wasn't even near I know what you're talking about. I'm trying to think of the proper name. Anybody in chat? I think it's
the reason he was in infantry training at Pendleton, and they were he was going in to be an 0311. He was just going straight 0311. It wound up being a 0314, which I don't know exactly the difference between it. But they had them all on the parade ground. They had them up in the bleachers, and some gunny sergeant came out. He was saying, we've got this school to drive, where you'd be in this light armored reconnaissance battalion. He goes, anybody wants in it, step forward. And he goes, is there any questions? He goes, is there any hikes on this thing? And they go, a lot less in here. He goes, I want in. Right. So that's how he got in that.
Anyway,
that's how he got in that.
Yeah, you don't have to walk and run. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
they would carry like 15 scouts in the back. And he was a driver on his first deployment. He was a driver on the second deployment. He was a gunner. He said they tore some shit up with that big 25 millimeter cannon.
Oh, yeah. It's not a Bradley. I know that. The Army had the Bradleys. It's called
it'll hit me in a minute.
I can't think of the name right now.
Yeah.
They actually, when everything was transversing out, they were putting side grate reflectable panels on it for RPG hits.
Right.
Also, when an RPG came in, it would actually hit the grate first, and it, wouldn't hit the reactive armor. It would just detonate right there, but everybody would be okay. So if you see these things rolling around town, a striker, that's it, striker. I'm sorry, it was a striker. Yep.
Yeah.
You see them rolling around town with the grates all around it. It looked like a fence around the whole striker vehicle. It was crazy. Yeah.
He was in the 3rd LAR, Light Armored Reconnaissance Battalion. Okay. And I can't remember those vehicles they drove, what they
what?
I'm trying to look it up, but it's a 8-wheel, they're assault vehicles, and they carry scouts in the back. Anyway, some of the stories he told me when they were in Afghanistan are hysterical. There was one time they were assaulting a city right on the Pakistani border called Baram Cha, and they had already flown in leaflets and everything telling all the civilians to get out. They told them they were coming. I don't know why they did all that stuff, but that's protocol, I guess, to get all civilians
They didn't want civilian casualty or anything.
Well, the fighters stayed. There was quite a bit of a force there.
They didn't care.
And he told me, he said, the guys that we fought, they knew they were going to get stomped. I mean, they knew they were going to just get clobbered, but they stayed anyway, hoping they would survive, and they would be a hero if they survived. But anyway, they were moving in this valley, and they kind of stopped in the desert over there looks just like Southern California.
Right.
It just looks exactly like Southern California. And they stopped, and they took a couple of sniper rounds on a vehicle, and they couldn't pinpoint exactly where the sniper was. And so their captain, that was the leader of their little group of LAVs is what they're called. They're LAVs. He ordered my son and another guy out of the vehicle to take their flak jackets off and walk around in front of the vehicle. He said, get out, walk around, take your jacket off, take your body armor off, and draw some fire so we can figure out what this sniper is.
He told him to take his body armor off. And
he said take it off because he knew it would draw fire. And anyway, it's just funny. It's funny to hear them tell. And it's just normal stuff they do every time they go out, but those guys would go out for 6 or 8 weeks at a time. They called them the little piggies because they would go out and they would not come back to an FOB for 8 weeks. They're just patrolling the desert. And
you stink to high hell, man.
Oh, yeah. He said, man, we were just the smelliest. That's why they called them the little pigs. They'd come in and everybody would scatter because they stink so bad.
2 or 3 showers just to get the shit off you. I'm telling you, they're nasty. Nasty.
He got blown up by an IED in his on that last deployment, and it screwed him up a little bit. But he was out for a couple of days from the fighting,
right?
and then he came back. And then when he was discharged, he was in for 6 years. And then when he got out, he came back here and he went to work. He married a girl in California who already had a little boy. They moved here. They had a couple of more kids. He was here. He got a good job here at Toyota. He was doing really good. And they had a reunion. They have a reunion every year with the guys in that battalion or in his company.
Right.
And they meet in Alabama, and they were asking him. He had a bad concussion and he lost hearing in one ear. But there were guys in the vehicle. One guy had just pretty much amputated his leg from that he saved his leg, but it was like there wasn't much of it left.
Right.
And a couple other guys would hurt. And so he never applied for veterans benefits for that.
Why not?
And some of his officers would even come to these, they're all out now, but they would come to these reunions. And the one last year they asked him, they said, did you get your veterans benefits? He's like, no, man. This guy was hurt a lot worse than me. And you know how you guys are.
That's the mentality that you have. I mean,
and they said, you're an idiot. You're a dumbass for not. And they wrote letters for him. His officers wrote letters for him. And he got all his benefits, for loss of hearing, for brain concussion, for PTSD, which I think he has.
How's he doing with this PTSD?
He's good.
I don't mind. I mean, I'm not trying to be, rude or overstep.
It's real subtle, I think. And, I don't approach him about it. I don't ask him questions. I just let him deal with it because there's nothing I can say or do. There's nothing I can do. But I've talked to him about it a few times and he's like, yeah, I'm okay. It's kind of comes and goes, once a month or once every couple of months. It
does.
Feels kind of weird, but
it's unexplainable.
He just changed jobs. He got a really good job over in Arkansas, so they're in the middle of moving. I'm sorry to talk about all that, y'all.
You're not.
You're fine
for it, man.
I'm just blabbering.
Yeah, we are big on supporting our veterans here.
No, don't even apologize for that. No,
but he's a good source for. He's a good resource for research, on some of this stuff. And of course, my guys aren't military. The Steve Lilly crew, none of them have ever been military, and so I don't have to. And I did that purposely, so I don't have to deal with the military terminology and the weapons and all that stuff. So.
Yeah, but you got it down you got it down pat with the weapons and stuff, though. Really. Down pat. So. The
Claymores, did you hear the story I did with the Claymores?
Yeah. Yeah. Even with the grenade, it was just like, you think some of them are real stupid when they're holding the grenade looking at it like, what is this? It's like, and then, the pin's already pulled and the spoon's flying out and they're holding it in their hand. That was the best. Those were good stories, man. Excellent stories. Okay, what'd she say? I read DA's.
Chicken Bird, just 69. Did you have 10 Ragnarok books out?
Yeah, there's 10 out.
Wow. I didn't know that. I read the first 2.
Well, I've got plans for a second series called Wastelands of Ragnarok. And it picks up a few years after the end of the 10th book. I'm not sure when I'm actually going to get around to releasing that series because I've got so many series running right now that if I did one book a month, I would still only get one book out a year for each series, pretty much.
Yeah.
Huh.
I've kind of spread myself kind of thin, but at the same time, that's a good place to be for a writer, to always have a ton of work that you've got to get done.
Yeah. Those are good books.
Yeah, all his. I mean, yeah, I get sucked into all his stuff.
Lots of Norse god names and characters that I can't pronounce. That's how I know DA wrote it.
Either Norse or Native American, one of the two.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce
Sometimes
either.
both.
I mean, what, Robbie? Your team is what? 18 Wild Hunt that they use on the job. I mean, that's what you look at his Facebook, he's got his guys and they all have the stickers and stuff on their car. So, on their patrol cars and stuff. So, it gets out there. I had some made up. I'm having some made up for my back of my truck and for them. little decal, little Wild Hunt team vinyl decals for the back of the cars and stuff. So, I mean, I even had my patch on my hat, my Wild Hunt patch. They're like, you guys, oh my God, you know who that is? And I'm like, yeah, man, I know who you're talking about. Why? How do you like those books? I'm like, yeah, books are great. I know DA personally. No way. It's like they get blown away. I'm like, yeah, he's an asshole, but he's a good guy. I said,
Don't make fun of the super fans.
Yeah. I said, no, he's a good friend. I said, he's a brother.
Never a more accurate description of me has been issued. He's an asshole, but he's all right.
You're not an asshole, though. That's the whole thing.
I can name a long list of people I put handcuffs on that would disagree with you.
Well, they deserved it. Sorry. They probably deserved it. Just like what Robbie does, and even when I was at the courthouse, same thing. They all deserved it. You're there for a reason. You want to act that way, you're getting cuffs put on you. So, I mean, anywhere you go, it's the same way. I was just at the hospital with Uncle John. They had a guy come in for a drug, I guess it was drugs, and they had him in a gown. And the guy starts flipping out, throwing nurses around, and one nurse is yelling. I ran out and grabbed him before security got there. It was like, it's, why don't you have security on that floor if you have a patient that's, with, pumped full of drugs, so.
They get spread kind of thin, probably.
Yeah, they were.
I know we were.
I've been tossed around a couple of times, and I know for a fact that the security force at our hospital when DA was there was good.
Yeah. Yeah, these guys, put it like this. I had the guy back in his room, calm down, and these guys show up after that. I'm like, really? Come on, man. I was talking to Uncle John, and all I hear is, someone help me. And I'm looking like, what the heck? And he's got her by the hand, by her wrist, holding her by her wrists, shoving her down the hallway. And he was in a gown, his ass hanging out. So I just came up behind him and put him in a bear hug and calmed him down. I was talking to him. He just calmed down.
Really? Do tell, Anthony.
Thank you. You're welcome. Smart ass.
Hey, I just beat the rest of them to it, okay?
You wait.
We're already thinking it, man.
Wait till you get here on the 18th, my friend.
I told you need to call Big Spoon, Robbie. I told you.
Wait till you get here. I'm going to say it off the air. I ain't going to say it on the air. You wait.
Look, I told you. I'm bringing your CREs, so you'll be fine.
Yeah, I got your CREs right here.
And for those of you who don't know what CREs are, crayons ready to eat.
See? Yeah, Uncle John's going back. Yeah, he's doing. Yeah, I got him in the hospital. It's how can I put it? They don't know if it's cancer or not yet. They'll find out. They found something on his left lung, so we'll see what happens. So that's pretty upsetting, but is what it is. But let's not talk about that. I don't want to talk about that. I get upset. So anyway, yeah, love your books, man. Love the stories that you do, Cam. Really, I do, man. I'm a big fan of Steve Lilly, and I even said it to DA. I was driving back. I said, I'm going to be a half hour late. I really want to talk to Cam. It's like, so he's like, okay. I actually look forward to listening to your stories when you tell it. Even DA's books, man, on the Audible. I really do.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
It takes me in. It blocks everything out. Just takes me away for an hour, 2 hours. I forget about everything around me and just enjoy it.
Yeah, that's the point.
Exactly. That's what the point of stories are for.
Right.
Books. A good book should be an escape from reality.
Exactly.
It's just pure escapist fiction. It's something you don't have to worry about any of the crap that's going on in the world. You just immerse yourself in another world for a little while, and the best books will transport you there.
Yeah.
And it's a cheap entertainment.
And you can go there many times.
Yeah.
Anytime you feel like being there again.
It's a lot cheaper than going to the movies.
Oh my God.
Very much so.
what is it now? Almost what, $12 for a ticket? I think.
Depends
What
on
is
where you go. Some like if you go to the big IMAX,
Yeah.
they're even higher than that.
it? Yeah, I
I wish
still
we
haven't.
had an.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I wish we had an IMAX close to us. I would love it.
There's a big one here in town. I've only seen a couple of movies on it. There's only been a few that have been out in the last decade that I felt like I even wanted to see that bad to go to the IMAX.
Right.
Hey, I was going to ask Robbie. Robbie, did you see John Wick yet?
The latest one?
Yeah.
Yeah, I hadn't seen that one yet. I've seen them all up into that one, but I hadn't seen
All
it
right.
yet.
So don't make, when you come down, we're going to go, me and you one night. We're going to go to the big IMAX. There's a big theater here in Ocala, man, that we're going to go to. You'll enjoy it. The seats recline back, and it's crazy. So
Cool.
it's awesome.
I hadn't seen that one yet.
Yeah, me either. I haven't gone either. So I want to see it. Want to see it. But anyway, yeah, I love the stuff you do, guys. Really. Even when you do DA stories, man, I'm so sucked into it. It's like crazy. You know, it is. And I told DA that, I've never got really intrigued on books like that until I met him with his, because of the military aspect and, you know, the same aspect with Bigfoot and everything. And, you know, and I was a non-believer. The guys will all tell you. I used to make fun of people. I'd laugh at you. I'd be like, you're crazy. You're nuts. You didn't see a Bigfoot. Ain't no such thing. And then I'm out hunting one day, and that's what I seen. Ran right into me, and it was just right there. So changed my whole aspect, you know. Oh. And here we are.
Carry that big gun.
Oh,
Yeah.
we do, and I do. Robbie does too. He's got one too. We all do.
Kim, what's your writing process like? Do you do an outline before time? Do you have a basic idea, or do you just sit down and let it go?
I'll make a few notes because I know if I don't, I'll just make a list of bullet points for a story. Because if I don't, I'll forget something, and I'll write the whole thing and forget something I wanted to write about. But no, for the most part, I don't write an outline. I just have ideas in my head, and I just sit down and start writing. I'll tell you one thing I've done is, and I talked about this last night, but started out, I wrote the first 7 or 8 Steve Lilly stories in first person past tense.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're journal entries, and I thought I would continue writing them that way. They're fairly easy to write. You know, first person is easy to write because it's just, you know, the writer's or the character's perspective on everything and all his actions. But I can't keep his voice for that long. The Steve Lilly voice hurts my throat if I do it a long time. So there's about, out of 14, I'll have up 14 tomorrow. There's probably about 4 of them that are written in third person, and that's a hell of a lot easier to narrate than everything in Steve Lilly's voice. Because if I write it as a journal entry, which it kind of is, then the whole thing has to be in his voice. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. No, it makes complete sense. When I first started writing the first Ragnarok book, you'll notice that it's told in a different perspective than most of the other stories. The reason though it is that way is I started writing the Ragnarok books in third person, and it just never. I wrote about 100 pages, and I never really reached that point where I felt like the story was clicking. And I went back and read over it 2 or 3 times and decided it really needed to be told like in a journal format.
Right.
And so I went back and redid it and started it over. And at that point, the character of Wiley just gelled in my head. Now, I can't do that with Daniel Clark. I can't do that with William Grey Eagle. But when I write Wiley, that's what comes to my mind. And my wife says it's because I put so much of myself into Wiley. He was my first real big main character. And I don't know if that's true, because when I see Wiley in my head, I don't see me. The person I kind of always pictured in my head was Michael Chiklis from The Shield.
Yeah.
but I guess when it comes to the actual details of the character, I did invest a lot of myself, a lot of my own personal details about my life went into Wiley. I was a corrections officer. He was a veteran. A lot of things about Wiley were parts of me, and so I will always find that connection to Wiley, and I think that's why when I write Wiley, it becomes more important to do it in like it's in my own voice in my own head.
Yeah.
Whereas the others, I just tell it third person omniscient, and it's easier that way because then I can tell you what this person was thinking, what this person was thinking. But the Wiley story was just really from Wiley's point of view.
Writing in third person, you can tell a broader story, I think, and but first person is fun because I like doing it with Steve Lilly because he's got such a comical kind of a sense of humor about him, and I can really put that in. But I can do it the other way as well. So,
well, Steve is interesting because he's got that just good old fashioned Southern humor. Just he reminds me of like family members, or you sit around, hang around with a couple of good old boys, and it doesn't matter what kind of funky shit they're getting into. It's still funny because they're good old boys.
Yeah. Yeah. He's and he's clever. He's very clever, and so.
Well, and he gets underestimated too. I think there's a tendency to think that somebody from the South, because they speak slower, they think slower, and they don't.
No.
They don't miss anything.
No.
It just comes out slower.
Sometimes some characters just are benefit from people underestimating them. Margolin is one of those characters. People underestimate him because he acts like an idiot, but they don't realize how smart the guy really is. He's a world-class operator. He just acts like a moron because he wants to.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I was telling April that the other day. I kind of like, it's a long story, but I did my weekly go down the TikTok rabbit hole the other day. And you all know the big debate going on in the country and all that stuff. And so there was this person who was for the big debate, and they were just sitting there just talking about, it was a young person, and they had all of these degrees, and they were just telling the audience that how much smarter they were than them, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm sitting there, I'm a 60-year-old man, and I'm sitting there listening to this kid tell everybody in the world how much smarter she is. And that's what they get off on. They just love that kind of stuff. And the truth is, she doesn't know anything. She doesn't know anything. And when come talk to me when you're about 45 or 50, then you'll know something, But I was talking to April about it, and with the Southern accent and all that stuff, some people will put you in that bracket like you're not very smart. But I like that. And that doesn't bother me a bit. I like being an enigma to people, And
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I am, that I act stupid, but I am smart. But I'm not stupid, And so whatever people think of me, and I contrasted that with what this young person was saying, and she cares about what people think about her. She cares that people think she's very intelligent because she, and someone would make a comment and misspell a word, and she was, oh, I can tell you're not educated, just all this stuff. And it's like,
wow, condescending much?
Oh, but that whole crowd is that way.
Yeah.
They're all into this, we're smarter than everybody. We're more contemporary than everybody and all this stuff. And people like us are just sitting there going, you don't know anything.
Yeah, you have no idea about life. Nothing about life.
Yeah.
Nothing.
So Steve Lilly is that way. So people kind of, put him in a box, but he's not stupid, and he knows he's not stupid, but he doesn't care what people think about him. So that's kind of the essence of his personality.
Right.
But he's very clever.
I got a question.
My ex-brother-in-law was a good old boy from Southern Arkansas, and he would speak real slow, real thick accent. The guy was a fiber optic engineer. Like, he literally built like telephone relay stations, and it took a while to get it out, but you hear something from it. Everything he said was profound. He could say more in 12 words than an educated person could say in an hour and a half.
Right.
And I always used to love listening to him because, you had to hang on it because it took a while for it to all come out because he spoke so slowly.
Yeah.
But, oh, man, guy's wicked smart.
Yeah.
I got a question. Like, we know, like, me and Robbie and Steve and Doc have a pretty good idea what DA's characters look like in the book. Okay. What does Steve Lilly basically looks like and Hook Johnson and how do you portray their look? I mean,
well, I just have images in my mind, but since there is no visual for any of those, it can be whoever you want it to be. But Steve's just an average, he's probably a little he's probably a little smaller than average. He's not very tall, he's not big or fat, or he's in pretty good shape. All these guys are in good shape because they can move through these swampy woods pretty good. Hook is a real big tall guy. I think I gave his height at some point, 6'2" or 6'3". He's probably 250 pounds. He's kind of muscled up and he's tattooed up and
former biker guy.
Yeah, he's got long hair. I don't think he has a full beard. He's probably got some beard art going on. And Lewis is a big guy. He's kind of like John Coffey from.
That's what I was gonna. I was just gonna swear to God. I was just gonna say that from the Green Mile.
Yeah,
and
Isabel.
That's how I portray him in my head when you talk about him. I'm like, that's how he looks to me.
Yeah, Lewis is into some bad stuff. He makes his money in the underworld. He's a criminal. I mean, he doesn't hurt anyone, but he deals in guns and things like that. You don't really find that out. And I don't think it's that important to the story, but it comes out later in the stories. And then Isabel is just an average size Mayan, kind of an Indian guy, I
like how he came into the story, man. That was really, really cool how you did that.
He's not from Mexico. Matter of fact, there's going to be a funny encounter he has with law enforcement in this very next story, and because they think he's illegal, and the way he jumps back in their shit, it's pretty funny. And it's everything I write in this upcoming story is exactly what my buddy Isabel did. My buddy Isabel he's a natural born American.
Right.
But he can move down to Mexico tomorrow and just fit right in because he was raised by Mexican grandparents and parents, and he knows the language. And so I knew him in Arkansas, but he lives in Texas now. I wish he would message me back because I want to tell him about this. He might get pissed off, and I might have to take Isabel. I may have to kill Isabel off. I don't know.
But I like how even when you tell stories about, I got the old lady cutting the grass and pulling motors. People actually get pissed at you.
Oh yeah.
Like, I'm like, really? Like, he's really letting his wife do that? I'm like, come on, people, really?
Well, she cuts grass. She likes to cut grass, but
right.
Let me tell you something. That girl is not going to do a damn thing she doesn't want to do. Not one thing she doesn't want to do.
That's like my wife.
Do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I love how you did that with, she's pulling the engine right now and this and that, and everybody's putting comments. I'm watching the comments. I'm like, oh my God, that's so I'm like, really?
I can't believe you call her your old lady.
Your old lady, yeah.
Steve, that's what we were talking about a minute ago. If somebody thinks I'm a redneck and I really call my wife my old lady, I'm fine with that, but I'm just playing, So.
Oh, sure. Well,
I tell my wife all the time, she'll say something and I'll go, don't sass me, devil woman. She just rolls her eyes at me.
Oh my God. The interactions when Rachel and I were out in public, I was shooting a friend's 270 one time, and I had never shot a rifle with a scope on it. I've been around handguns, but I never shot long arms. And we were shooting at a little tannerite target, and it's like, oh, he'd be cool. He'd blow this shit up, And of course, being a novice, I got right up on the scope. Ooh. And I pulled the trigger and it kicked me back in the eye and it split my eyebrow.
You got half moon.
Black in my eye.
Half moon notch.
And so the next, I learned real quick, you don't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
So I went to Hardee's the next morning, and we were sitting there with breakfast, my wife and I. Of course, it's all black and blue. And the whole time we're there, the guy at the checking our order just kind of looking at me. And my wife makes some kind of a comment, and I overreacted, this flinch, And I'm sitting there talking to him. She goes off to the bathroom as I'm paying for the food, and he goes, "Everything okay?" And I had him lean forward. I said, "Are you married, man?" He goes, "Yeah." He goes, "Is your wife cook? She a good cook?" He goes, "Oh yeah, man, sure." I'm like, "Let me give you some advice. If she ever makes a meatloaf, I don't care if it tastes like shit. You eat every bite. You don't say a word. Just eat every bite." And he's like, "Okay, man. Okay." And so, he goes to bring our food out to our table later. He's just kind of looking at me and looking at her, walking off. And she goes, "What the hell did you tell him?" I told him.
Freaking eyes all closed up.
And she was so, not really mad. Acting like she was mad. It's like, "You're an idiot. I can't take you in there. He thinks I beat you." I'm like, well.
I tell my wife all the time I can run faster scared than she can mad.
Oh God. Yeah, even when he was telling, I caught on to the burrito and the baby thing that you did, and everybody got pissed off. It's like, give me a break.
No, only one woman got white
know.
woman got pissed off.
She got all butthurt. I'm like, give it a rest already, would you? I mean, really.
She ordered me to take that video down or redo it or re-upload it and get that out of there. And I'm like, you can kiss my ass. I didn't say.
She ordered you on your channel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The comment that she said, you should have seen it. I was like, wow. Like, but, Cam addressed it. He's like, really, people? Like, come on. I'm not prejudiced. And none of us are either. It's like, we're not, I wasn't raised like that. And your son will tell you that too. When you're in the service, it doesn't matter what color you are, man. And you got everybody's back. It doesn't matter. Everybody's your brother. And for people nowadays to try to split us, it's crazy. It's nuts.
Well, Isabel is, he's Indian. He's Central American Indian. You can look at him. He's got the big crook nose. He's just a beautiful guy. Hook Johnson is a white Swede. Johnson, that's a Swede. That's a Nordic name. And then you've got Lewis Shanks, who's just a big old black as coal black guy. And then Steve Lilly's just an average looking white guy. And so I caught some crap from some guy. He actually wrote me an email and he goes, "Well, I just think it's funny that you identified Lewis as a black man, but you didn't ever say anything about Steve being a white man and I'm like, what is up your butt, man? It's like, if you tell somebody what color one of your characters is, it's an identifying marker. It's to put an image in their head of who they're dealing with. And so if it's a white guy writing the story, then naturally you're going to identify some of the people who might be in the minority, like the Mexicans or the black guys.
And if you didn't have a African-American black guy in your story, then they'd ask you, hey, why don't you have any character? See, you can't win and lose, Cam. That's the whole thing.
I know. It's like,
you can't win and lose, man.
For the most part, unless it's important to the story, I don't even really give a lot of physical descriptions of the characters. You might guess some of them by, a character might have a last name that's Hispanic. You might guess some of them, but I don't always go into a lot of descriptors on that because I want anyone to be able to kind of read themselves into that character.
See, in my mind, Hammond's a black guy, but you told me he wasn't a black guy. He's,
I could totally see that too. I mean, I could see somebody like Morgan Freeman playing him. But somebody mentioned, I can't remember who it was talking about the colonel in charge.
Boudreaux.
I could have drawn a blank. When I thought of Colonel Boudreaux, I thought of Idris Elba. That's who I originally pictured for Colonel Boudreaux.
See, I picture Boudreaux as a very distinguished African American too. I don't know why, but that's.
Yeah,
I thought when I created the character, I thought, Idris Elba was perfect for Boudreaux.
Same thing, Steve. Yeah. I don't know. I had the same image.
He's a big Louisiana Delta guy.
He reminds me of what's his name from the movie General. John Travolta, the officer, the African American officer in that movie. I just got
Oh,
that.
it's been a long time since I've seen that movie.
So
The guy I was thinking of was the dude that does the Allstate commercials. He played in the
right,
Unit.
the unit.
Oh, Dennis Haysbert.
Yeah.
Oh, he's
It's on
great
Dennis
too.
Haysbert.
There you go. That's it, Steve, right there. You got it.
Yeah, Dennis Haysbert, like that, somebody like him, or even like the guy that played Cisco on Deep Space Nine. I pictured a guy with a really deep voice.
Right.
I don't know why. I can't remember his name now. It kills me because I'm a Trekkie.
Avery Brooks.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's it.
He's a great actor too.
Oh, he's an amazing actor. Fabulous actor.
Yeah, you get these images of the characters in your head. Like I said, Lewis Shanks. He reminds me of what's his name from Green Mile. That's the image I get.
Yeah.
Michael Clark Duncan.
Yeah, not stupid, but just a big, brawly, no shit take kind of guy that is going to get the job done. That's it.
He's a big, gentle giant,
Right.
is what he is, and he's a super good guy, and he loves Steve and the whole crew, and he's got tons of friends, and all these people are
now.
all these people are modeled after people I know.
Right.
So, and all of us in real life, we don't think about the racial. We never talk about it. We never think about it.
No.
The only people that think about it are white people.
Yeah. Well,
that's the only, and it's usually white women because they think they have to take up for everybody.
Yeah, the Karens of the world.
These people don't need your help. They don't need your help. They're doing, every person that I know, I don't care what color they are, they're all perfectly able to handle their own affairs. They don't need any help from me. Right. They don't need any help from anybody. They're all just perfectly able. And I've got friends all over the spectrum.
Yeah, I do too. I'm sure everybody, I know Rob.
And they'll tell you my favorite pub in another town I used to live in is owned by a pair of lesbians, and half the people that come in there to drink a beer after work are gay.
Right.
And they are more accepting and inclusive than any church I've ever been in.
Right.
I'm telling you the truth.
No,
so I love those people. They're just the nicest people in the world. And so, but if you say something in a story, then all of a sudden these people have to come in and try to make everything right and get you to think the way they do. And you're not even thinking anywhere close to the way they think. So
how do you think how's it going to look when, Robbie's coming down at the 18th for the convention, the conference. You got some New York Guinea Italian walking around with a good old country boy, and they're going to go, what's that mix up about? Hey, what's going on here? But, it's not where you come from. It's how you guys get along. And that's the whole thing.
Yeah.
I would die for them. I mean, I have never met DA. First time I'm meeting Robbie is the 18th. But there are things that we do for each other that your own family wouldn't do, and that's from the heart. And DA knows, and Robbie knows, and Steve knows what I'm talking about. And it's just, it has nothing to do with color, your background, your race, religion, nothing. How you were raised, we all have something in common, and that's what we click on, and that's what we go on. And like Robbie's daughter, can I say this? Can I tell the story? Robbie? Okay. Yeah. I'm in Florida. Robbie's daughter. Now, I never met Robbie. Never met his daughter. His daughter was coming down to Florida in an area by me because her girlfriend, which I'm not going to mention, was getting abused by her boyfriend. Okay. So he calls me and says, hey, man, my daughter's coming down with her boyfriend. If anything goes down, I need you there ASAP. I said, no problem. I'm there. You just give me the word. I said, give your daughter my number, and I'm right there. I mean, that's the kind of stuff that you do for each other that, I'm not going to let anything happen to his little girl, no matter what. That's his blood, and that's the difference. When you get people like making comments like that, Cam, it's it used to bother me, even in here when they made comments. I just blow it off and I laugh. I just laugh at them. Because it just shows you their intelligence when they say that, it just, they have other things to worry about what you're doing and how you're writing, and instead of their own life. So
Well, I think they're not involved with other people. I think they
No.
live a sheltered life, and so their whole perception of the world is this. They're getting it from the news or
Right.
something. I don't know.
Mhm.
But if they were out here hanging out with dudes and women just like us, they would never even think about that
No.
stuff. So,
And DA got the same thing, man. They had one guy trying to take his stuff down off of YouTube because what was that all about? DA, that guy from, where was he, India or?
Yeah, they filed a copyright claim trying to claim what we did as his own intellectual property. And I'm like, I disputed it. It was with Facebook. I'm like, how can he claim a copyright against something we just did live?
yeah.
Right. So
Yeah.
it's the same, man. But anyway, yeah,
That's funny.
that's the image I get when you have your characters, man. I get those different, like the character, like Steve said about what's his name that was in that show, The Unit. That's for the the head team leader. You get these characters like Steve Lilly. To me, what I get an image of is, and I don't know if I'm right or wrong. Is it the Terminal List? Is
Yeah.
the SEAL
Chris
that he
Pratt.
betrays? That's the image I get with when he grows his beard out and gets all scruffy and he's got that ball cap on and the blue jeans and cowboy boots and he's just rough tough. That's the image I get of Steve Lilly.
Yeah.
That's who I look at. And then you got what Hook Johnson. You portrayed him as a biker, the MC Club, and that's what I get an image of, a big burly.
I was thinking Opie from the guy that played Opie from
yeah, the
Sons of Anarchy.
Sons of Anarchy.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, that's the kind of thing I think. That's what pictures in my head when you say his name. I'm like, okay, I can see that. Especially when he's fighting. Boss is having a nightmare. Boss is having a night. My pit bull.
Oh,
Hey, buddy.
I was wondering what I was
Felt
hearing.
just like Harley having a bad dream.
Buddy.
DA, you mentioned The Shield a little while ago. That's one of my favorite TV series.
I
of all
love
time.
that show.
Yeah.
We love it.
Of course, anytime you got Walton Goggins in something, I'm going to love it. But Walton Goggins, we'd have to find a role for him too, because I just love that dude.
Do you remember the show The Commish that he played in?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
He's a great actor.
They're
The
bringing
first
back
gun
Justified
that
too. You know that, right?
Oh wow!
Yeah.
The first gun that I ever bought was the same gun that Michael Chiklis carries in The Shield.
Really?
Smith & Wesson 4506.
Yeah.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
My wife has claimed it now as hers. She calls it Andrea. 21st birthday, I went to the gun store because I could.
Yeah, some of the characters, man. We got to get, like we always talk about, if DA ever got a movie deal or a TV deal, like who would play who in the show. We go on that. We start digging around and stuff. I think that like I said to DA, I think the Steve Lilly stories and the Team Wild Hunt stories, I think if you integrated them and wrote a script, look at the stuff that's out there now, man. Really. I mean, some of the stuff on Paramount and Netflix, it's like, what? Like, why would you even have that on your show? So I think it would take off. I really do. Look at the Bigfoot community. How many people would go crazy for something like that? I mean,
oh, absolutely. I think it would be huge.
Even in the cryptid world. I mean, how many fans does Cam have? How many fans do we have? How many fans do, everybody? I mean, they find out that you're making a TV show and it's like, okay, I got to watch it, So I think it would take off. I think if somebody took the chance and said, okay, I'm going to give this guy a chance, and I'm going to throw that in there. We're going to make a show. I think it would really, really take off. I mean, look what happened to what's his name, DA, the retired captain, SEAL.
Mhm.
Wrote the book, happened to know somebody, and that's all it took.
Jack.
And Jack Carr.
Can't think. Yeah, Jack Carr. Couldn't think of his last name.
So that's exactly what it took.
He's a
And
damn good writer.
Cam, if you ever want to watch, I don't know if you have watched The Terminal List. Have you seen it yet?
Yeah, I saw it.
Okay. So, you know, he was a SEAL captain, a commander. I mean, he just got into writing as soon as he retired. And,
Yeah, my son reads all his books.
right. And you know, all the stuff, even, you know, Tom Clancy, all that. But like I used to say, and everybody will say it, DA is the Tom Clancy of cryptid. That's what he
Yeah.
writes. Instead of spy novels, he writes about cryptids. And it's all, you know, has something, he integrates something into it with it. You know.
The Ozark Stephen King.
Yeah. And that's what it is. It's mixed in with it. It's mixed in with the Stephen King horror and the Tom Clancy writing to where you're like, you know, there's blood, guts, and it's just like the Steve Lilly stories, the same thing, you know, because, you know, chopping their heads off to get the bounty and then, you know, this, and you really get into it. You know, that's what I like about it. It's not, you know, you're not listening to Lord of the Rings on Audible like, oh, God, no, really? You know.
It's a pretty good story. Lord of the Rings is a good story, though.
It is.
It is.
It is. We're all, you know, we're all geeks when it comes to that stuff.
It's just different type of storytelling, you know,
Mm-hmm.
and it's so detailed and intricate in those Hobbit stories that it's.
Joe Derringer had a great comment. He said, Cam, I love the short story where Team Lilly was spotted in a truck stop. What a great idea you had there. Yeah. I liked that. I thought that was a great touch. And I actually got told a story from another writer that I think you'll get a kick out of. The guy that writes the Walt Longmire mysteries. I cannot think of his name off the top of my head. I've talked to the guy several times. I cannot for the life of me think of his name. That's going to drive me nuts. Shit.
I'll look it up.
Okay. I know it. It's right on the tip of my tongue, but I cannot for the life of me think of his name. But anyway, I was talking to him, and he told me.
Johnson.
What's that? Craig Johnson.
That's
Johnson. Right. Craig. I was talking to Craig, and Craig tells me this story. He said he's got this Absaroka County ball cap that he wears everywhere. And Absaroka County is not a real county. I mean, there's a real county there, but it's not called Absaroka. And he said he was eating at a diner one time in Wyoming, and he was wearing that ball cap, and he went up to pay for his food, and the lady behind the counter said something about law enforcement discount. And he goes, no, ma'am, I'm not a cop. And said the lady that was sitting right next to him goes, well, she says, she goes, well, you're wearing a police hat. And he goes, no, ma'am. And he turned it where she could see it. She said that it's Absaroka County. It's a made up county from a book series. It's not a real police agency. I'm not a cop. And she goes, yes, it is a real police agency. That's Walt Longmire's county. And he said she was just as serious as could be.
That episode, I didn't write that. One of my viewers wrote that. All the Steve Lilly stuff I put on Dixie Cryptid are stories people write to me. So I can't take credit for it, but it was a good story. A lot of truckers listen to my podcast, and they like when I put when we have stories about over the road drivers.
Well, it's good stuff. The common person can relate to it,
right? And, exactly.
And as a result, you feel for the characters. You care what happens to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure all the guys, right, Robbie, on the team have listened to the stories on the podcast and stuff. So yeah, yep. I mean, you got law enforcement guys that are really into it, and the first responders guys, so they're drawn into it. So, I mean, it's good. It's good stuff, man. That's all I can say. If you people haven't heard it or read it, you need to. That's all I'll say. That's it.
Gentlemen, I think I'm going to step out for the night here. It is getting about time for everybody to be eating here at the house. And
Yes, sir.
Cam, it is always a pleasure to get to hang out with you, brother. Keep on doing what you're doing. We love it. And the rest of you miscreants, I hope to see you next time. And to everyone on the chat, thanks for having me.
Thanks,
Steve.
Steve.
Thanks for hanging out with us, brother.
Will do.
We probably ought to start winding things up anyway. My oldest son is in town visiting. I haven't seen him in weeks, and he's gonna come over and hang out for a little bit. So we'll start wrapping things up.
Yeah,
we
and
don't
I
have
got to
to
work in the
cut it
morning
right
anyway.
off.
So.
That's true. You got to get up at 0:30. I
That's right.
think I'll post your link one more time there, Cam. Before we start wrapping up, I just, I want to thank Cam again for coming on. Cam, you are an awesome guest, brother. We need to do this again, where we just talk books and talk about characters and writing, and it's nothing real heavy.
Right.
And we talk cryptids all the time. We can talk cryptids anytime, but it's these nights where we get to talk about the writing process and characters and where we're wanting to go with stories. To me, they're just a lot of fun. I really get to kind of stretch my legs, so to speak, and I really respect what you do as a writer and as a narrator. You don't give yourself near enough credit, brother. You do a really good job at both, and I appreciate you letting me play in your sandbox with Steve Lilly. I've had a fun time doing it, and I want to keep doing it. And I'm really proud to be working with you, brother. I really am.
Thank you. The feeling's mutual. And thanks in advance for letting me include some of the Wild Hunt team on an upcoming story.
I can't wait to hear it.
I think it's a great compliment when other people, do fan fiction on your characters and my characters. And I love the trucker story.
Right.
It's a great compliment. Some people would get pissed off about that. They're like, no, you can't write my character in there. I love it. So my stuff is copyrighted. It's registered. Every manuscript I get legal copyrights on. So I don't have any trouble with anything like that. So yeah, I've really enjoyed this. I don't really like doing these lives, as you know. DA.
I know, it's like pulling teeth to get you to come on.
I know. I just don't. When I quit,
I try not to ask you too often, though.
That's okay. When I quit at 6 or 7 or 8, I'm done for the night. And
Right.
but this was the weekend night. It's perfect, and I appreciate it. And the next time, I'm going to try to get my lighting squared away so my face isn't purple. I cannot figure out. All you guys, your skin looks just perfect. Last night I was getting all these comments, and people were saying, "Is your blood pressure up, Cam? You look kind of heavy. You look fat. Have you put on weight?" And I'm like, "Damn,
Yeah,
You have
right.
a ring
that
light?
bad,
You have a ring light?
Yeah, I've got it on right here.
You might want to reposition it to where it's right in front of you, because if
Okay.
it's at any kind of angle, you'll get a lot of shadow and it won't pick up quite right. But you want it pointed straight at you, and you'll just play with the settings until you find one that doesn't make you look like you're wearing weird makeup. Because
Yeah.
I know I went through that for a while too. I was like beet red and
I look totally purple. I look like an alien in this image, and I was
Even
on
your
here
hand.
trying to
Hold up your
mess with
hand.
it.
Hold up your hand right now. Yeah, it's purple.
That's what
It's
I mean.
if you chewed the bubble gum that Violet Baudelaire had, we got to juice you.
Oh, man.
All right, guys. Thanks for having me on.
No, it's a pleasure
Hey,
meeting you, sir.
Cam, thank
Really.
you for
Thanks,
coming on,
Cam.
brother.
I'm checking the comments out here.
Yeah. Before we wind up for the night, we need to mention our
Affiliates.
affiliates, which we haven't done yet tonight. I'll let little Doc introduce himself. Let me put up the code, and we will play the little video. So how about a good word from our sponsors over at
Little
Dark
video.
Angel Medical.
Hey everybody, this is Kerry Pocket Dot Davis from Dark Angel Medical, and you are listening to DA Ex Machina with DA Roberts. You may recognize me or some of my products from Dark Angel Medical in some of the Apex Predator, Lakeview Man, and Wild Hunt books, and you can get those products at www.darkangelmedical.com, along with training classes on how to use those products and save a life. Shoot us an email at info@darkangelmedical.com and be the difference.
And that's the good folks over at Dark Angel Medical. If you go over to Dark Angel, don't forget to use discount code Cryptid25 for 25% off your entire order. And these are some pretty uncertain times we're going to be in. If you're going to be out away from basic 911 services, you need to have a good medical kit, and I can't recommend there's enough. I carried one as a cop for years, and I wouldn't trust my life to any other kit.
And Robbie, take it away.
There you go, Robbie. Let me switch the banner.
Scallywag Tactical.
Yep. As we always say on here, we love our veteran-owned companies. Scallywag Tactical makes some of the best knives that you will ever hold. Those of you who are on here all the time, hear me, Anthony, DA, Doc, any of us are on here talk about how much we love these knives. I know we're trying to wind down tonight, so I'll try to cut my little spiel down just a little bit. Fixed blades, folders, kitchen knives, fillet knives for your tackle box. They've got pretty much any kind of blade that you want. Throwing knives. They've even got a boarding axe if you got a ship you want to go take over. I mean, they got it all. But some of the best quality and sharpest knives I've ever had.
Yeah.
They've also got what's called a blemish blade section, where if the box or whatever gets messed up and they can't sell it as brand new, they give it to you to discount. And speaking of discounts, at your checkout, you put DA Roberts 10 in there. That gives you 10% off your order, which stacks up with the blemish blade. So you can, if you shop around, you can get a really, really good deal on some knives. This is a $45 knife.
Yeah.
It was a blemish blade, and I got it for $15. And then I got this one in the sailor assisted folder. So with the code, I paid $26 shipping and all for both of those knives. You can't pay $26 at Walmart for a knife that's going to be even half as good as this one. Not much less the two of them that I got. So,
and your daughter carries. Doesn't your daughter carry the one I got?
Yeah, this is just like the one you got her, but I had to get one for myself because I was jealous and I like this one too. But that's the Jolly Roger. This is the Orca. I like this one because it's got the serrated blade. It's what I carry in my uniform every day. This is my pretty much every day, and then I got that the copper sailor assisted folder, which is more of my little fancy knife if I'm dressing up a little bit, because it's a pretty knife, but it's still sharp as a razor.
And this one, I mean, like the one DA got me goes everywhere with me. And I had some expensive knives being in the gun business too. Crenshaw, Benchmade, and this thing blows them out of the water. Hate to say it, but it does. It really does. This thing keeps an edge like you wouldn't believe.
This retired my Kershaw. I carried a Kershaw for years in my uniform, and this right here retired it.
It's the truth. It is the truth. I mean, even my K-bar. My K-bar, I put that away. I have the, what is it? The Gunner's Mate. That goes that goes out with me when I go fishing, hunting. It's got the clip. So that replaced it. They're great. Now, I don't know what he does with the steel or what he does. Me and Robbie talked about it, but there's got to be a nice layer of carbon steel in there somewhere. And he's probably not going to give away his trade secrets, but it's sharp.
Some of the best knives I've ever owned.
Oh yeah,
I can tell you.
Hands down.
I'm not just saying that because we have them. I am dead serious when I say this. These are sharp, and they stay sharp. That's the crazy part. I've cut in so many things with this, and if I ran it down my finger right now, I would slice it down to the bone. It just keeps an edge. It's nuts. So,
and
I have that same one Anthony's got. That's my everyday carry. This knife has cut everything, and it's still just wicked sharp.
You know who's missing a knife right now that's not doing this? It's Cam.
What? I have to hook Cam up with one.
Cam is missing, and he can't get into the conversation with us with the knife.
I'll send you one, Cam.
Uh-oh.
Cam needs a scallywag.
Wait, what is he pulling out? What has he got? What is it?
It's my Walmart special.
There you go.
It's my Chinese-made piece of junk that went dull the first time I cut a little piece
Yeah.
of string.
Wait till DA
I'll send you a scallywag.
Wait
I'll
till
send
he
you a
sends you one
scallywag.
of these, Cam. You're
Just
gonna
give
be
me
like,
the
shit.
give me the website address and I'll just order one.
Scallywagtactical.com.
Here you go,
Okay.
Cam. I'll show you.
You will not be just look at watch this. You won't, and Robbie uses it every day. It's crazy.
Wow.
I mean, he uses it every day like I do, and I can do the same with it. And it
It's
just
like a
Man,
scalpel.
I've got
Yeah.
to have one. That's my
It's not-
problem. I can't there's a popular knife manufacturer. I can't remember the name of it. I spent like, I don't know, $40 on a knife about a year ago. And when I got it, it wasn't even sharp.
Huh?
I
Really?
mean, I cut it out of the packaging and I was going to go cut a piece of paracord and
Right.
it was blunt. It was like dull
Oh.
on the edge. And so
Well,
I
you
looked up
won't
the
get that with a
website
scallywag.
No,
and
no.
they expect you to sharpen your own knife. I'm like, no,
No.
when I buy a knife, I want it sharp.
Oh,
you
yeah.
know?
This
You buy a
What you saw
scallywag,
right there?
that sucker will take hair off your arm right out of the box.
Yeah.
what you saw right there, Cam, straight out of the box. I ain't put the
Yeah.
first stone on this knife or
Well,
any
I've
of the
had
scallywag tacticals I
How long
got.
have I had this knife, DA, that you gave me?
About a year.
I haven't sharpened it once, Cam. Not once, and it's razor sharp still. And
I'm
cut
not patient
everything.
enough to rub them on that stone for an hour, to get that real fine edge on
Right.
them.
Yeah, I
Gerber,
don't-
that's right. Totem
They make
Whisperer
good
says
knives,
it's a
Gerber.
Gerber. It's a piece of junk.
But I hate to say it, these scallywags blow everything out of the water I've ever owned. And it's the truth. We're not saying it because they promote the show and stuff. I'm telling you, DA will tell you, and Robbie, we're not going to carry something on us if it doesn't
No.
work.
I'll
So-
order one tomorrow. Go spend some
Awesome.
time with your son, DA.
Well, we'll go ahead and start wrapping things up. Again, I want to thank Cam for coming on. Folks, if you haven't had a chance to check out the new book is called Dark Frontier First Hunt. It was #1 in Western horror fiction, and I'm really pretty proud of this book. I'm really happy that the way it turned out, and I'm already planning a bunch of sequels. So hope you guys will check that one out. If you haven't checked out that or any of my other books, I hope you'll check them all out over at daroberts.net. If you like stories with a lot of action, cryptids, and elements of horror, I think you'll enjoy these stories. So hopefully you'll check all those out. Shane over at West Coast Dogman says Dark Frontiers was freaking awesome. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it, man. But again, folks, thank you guys for spending your evening with us. And thanks to Cam for hanging out with us on this Saturday evening. And really appreciate each and every one of you folks. I've said it many times. We don't have fans. We have friends. We love these conversations where it's just us sitting around talking like old friends. There's really no point in trying to put on any airs. I'm this way if you meet me at the bank or you meet me at Walmart. I'm just who I am. And that's why I appreciate guys like Cam and Robbie and Anthony, because what you see is what you get. We're just hillbillies and rednecks, and that's all we're ever going to be, and that's what we're happy to be. And we appreciate each and every one of you guys spending the evening with us, and we hope you guys will join us again on Wednesday night. And for those of you out there, just keep a few folks in your prayers. We've got Uncle John that's sick, Miss Lene who's still recovering.
Yes.
We have a few other people that are regulars around here and part of the family. William Nighthawk, who's battling cancer himself, keep him in your prayers. And Pat Canaday, who's one of our regulars, is dealing with some pretty serious health issues as well. So, and thank you guys for everybody who's sent me positive encouragement and kind words dealing with my back and a few other health issues that have cropped up. And I appreciate all of your guys' love and support so much. So we will see you guys on Wednesday night. Thank you again for spending time with us, and I hope you guys have a wonderful rest of your weekend. Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Thank you for joining us. Catch us again Wednesdays and Saturdays on DAX Machina. A special thanks to all our channel members and Patreon supporters. Please make sure to like, share, and subscribe.